Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you, and we have a banger heading into tonight's Jets-Islanders game, the Jets' final game before the player break for the Four Nations. And, of course, you know I got my red on today. It is the Chiefs and Eagles in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and we'll get to that coming up as well. David Sanchez will join us from New Orleans to fill us in on how the week is going and give us his thoughts on the big game on Sunday. We'll also have Lee Hacksaw Hamilton jump on a little later on for some Super Bowl talk. But we got one more big game for the Jets as they look to make it eight in a row heading into the player break. Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet. You know him as Rennie of K&R. Sean's going to join us coming up. And then we've got Eric Comrie on the program today. And I'll tell you what, if you're in a bad mood, just stick around because listening to Eric Comrie for a few minutes will put a smile on your face and get you ready to dominate the weekend and have a great time. A few people that are more fun to talk to than Eric, and he's going to join us a little later on the program. So lots of Jets talk coming up, and then we'll hit the big game later on. Of course, it's Friday, and that means we will have a marble race in and around 3 p.m., so make sure to join us and stick around for that. Shout out to all the podcast listeners. Thanks so much for making us a part of your day. Got to make a point of trying to jump in on the YouTube on Friday afternoon sometime to get on the marble race. And, of course, welcome to everybody that's with us live right now for the live broadcast on YouTube. Great to have you all with us. We couldn't do it without the great support of the sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk. A huge thanks to Princess Auto, Coolbet Canada, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, fansfirst.ca, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, and, of course, the Winnipeg Jets. And tonight is our fifth game of the month. Looking forward to seeing everyone that jumped on tickets to join us in Section 316 tonight. Should be a good one. And the Jets are looking for 8 in a row. We're looking to go a perfect 5-0 this year for our WST games of the month. And we'll do that. Of course, we'll get to a why not question of the day for a not auto corporate waiver in McGillivray a little later on as well. And, of course, fan feedback as well for our friends at fansfirst.ca. But Remo, Super Bowl weekend's here. We got a Friday night game with our friends from the chat room and Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. And the Jets are red hot. The vibes are very high, in addition to my team being in a Super Bowl and getting ready to make history on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a good time here. As you said, the Super Bowl is here Sunday. The Jets are on a heater. We've got this Four Nations coming up next week. So this is the last game before the break. And yeah, we're going to be at the game tonight, Section 316, with a number of viewers and listeners. And oh yeah, the trade deadline is around the corner, a month away from today. And the rumors are just running rampant. Any little tidbit or any updated trade board, the names that are showing up, certainly intriguing, Hustler. So this is a fun time of year. We've had some videos on our channel the last 2 days. Kevin Sawyer came on, a lot of reaction to that, and Murat yesterday as well. So if you missed the last two shows, some great Jets conversation as leading into tonight's game against the Islanders. So, hey, good time of year. Great to be talking with you.
Well, and listen, I mean, obviously I've been looking forward to this game for a while. Our first Friday night game with the WST crew, and but I've also been really intrigued with New York. Patrick Waugh behind the bench. Kind of forgot about that. We haven't seen much of the Islanders this year, but this was a team, Remis, that about a month ago we thought might be big-time sellers. And Brock Nelson, if the Islanders were going to sell, would be at the top of many teams' wish lists, including the Winnipeg Jets, a guy that's consistently potted 30, a big physical player that can play center in the top six. He's a guy that I was looking forward to seeing, and obviously a lot of the chatter around the team. But the New York Islanders have won 8 of their last 9 games right now and really pulled themselves out of the depth of the Eastern Conference right into the middle of this crazy race for wildcard spots in the other conference.
Yeah, I see reports today coming out from Chris Botta, who's covered the Islanders for a long time, Huss, and he says Brock Nelson's first choice is to sign, long-term with Long Island. So it sounds like, as long as they're within a playoff position, he's not going to be on the move. But could they be looking to move a player, I don't know, like Noah Dobson or someone like that? Like, what are the Islanders going to do? And, I almost forgot that Patrick Waugh was the coach, but he came in the middle of the season last year. So kind of cool to have a player or a former player of that, Hall of Fame caliber behind the bench. But I know the Islanders have given the Jets trouble over the years. So, hey, they want to end the break or end the before break portion of the schedule on a high note, continue the win streak, and I'm sure we'll see another great game from the Jets. They've had a couple days off. They had the gala Wednesday night, practiced yesterday, and back at it again, wearing those beautiful heritage uniforms tonight, Hustler.
Yeah, love the heritage look. Maybe the best jerseys in the league, to be perfectly honest. That you kind of rolled down the story with Brock Nelson. I mean, he's such an important part of their team. They're looking to extend him. So, I mean, I think the likelihood of him being traded, especially with what they've done to pull themselves out of the depth of the conference and be right there in the mix for the wild card, makes it unlikely. But there are reports that they're willing to move off Noah Dobson, which, to be honest, is a little surprising. I mean, Dobson is only 25 years old. He was the 12th overall pick in 2018. Dobson had 70 points last year in 79 games. Now, he's had a bit of a down year this year compared to that breakout season. Through 46 games played this year, he's got 6 goals, 18 assists, so sort of on a mid-40s pace. Not an overly physical guy, but I mean, he is 6'4", 200 pounds. And with some real offensive upside. So that, I think it's very clear that'll be a player that will draw plenty of interest. And did I mention he's also a right shot?
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a number of suitors there. So we'll see what the Islanders do. A lot of focus on the trade deadline, who's in the playoffs, who's not, and GMs. And Scott O'Neill mentioned he'll be having conversations with Kevin Cheveldayoff about the deadline. And, Elliott noted as well, I mean, GMs are having conversations about extending their own players during the 2-week break. So while there's not NHL hockey being played over the next 2 weeks, we will have 4 Nations games. And I think it's a trade break. So, after the break, Huss, it's, 2 weeks until the deadline. And then it's go time. And we could see some moves. And, we've already seen moves the last 2 Fridays. Could we make it 3? Could we make it 3 Fridays in a row? Us, because 2 weeks ago it was the Rantanen trade. Last week, the JT Miller trade. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Other team. While the Jets, they did get kind of blessed here by the schedule gods, because while they are off after this game, there are games Saturday and Sunday, so a little extra 2 days. But you mentioned right when they come back, they play that day against St. Louis. So I guess there's a bit of give and take there.
Yeah, I know, it's a good point. I kind of thought that this would be it, and then I realized there's 14 games tomorrow in the National Hockey League, and then, surprisingly, on Super Sunday, 2 early games. Obviously, no one wants to go up against the big game, but Utah and the Capitals are playing at 11:30 in the morning, and there's a noon game between the Habs and the Montreal Canadiens, and then the league goes dark for 13 days. The final of the 4 Nations in Boston is Thursday, November 20th, and the Jets play in St. Louis on the 22nd. So 2 weeks off for the fellas, but you'll want to finish off strong and go into the break with an 8-game winning streak if they can get this win tonight. And again, for our WST crew, try to make it 5 in a row with wins when we've been together up in section 316. As far as tonight goes, we're going to see Connor Hellebuck back in. Scott O'Neill sort of telegraphed that earlier on this week, talking to Mike McIntyre about the decision to play Eric Comrie. Eric Comrie, coming off his shutout, will join us later on today on the program. But, as we get into tonight's game, Reem, listen, it's just fun. If you're a Jet fan right now, just to look at the standings. And the Jets can be the first team to hit 80 points on the season tonight with a point. They can get to 81 with a win. They come into tonight's game, 38 wins, only 14 regulation losses, and 3 losses in overtime or a shootout. They have played one more game, so I guess by points percentage, they're the number 2 team in the league, but have a league best goal differential of plus 67, and we know what this Jets power play has done all year long. Historically good, now with about a 5-point cushion on the rest of the National Hockey League. So when Scott Arniel met the media earlier today, there's a question not necessarily about tonight's game, but just about where this team is at right now on another 7-game winning streak compared to what they did with their historic start of the season, going 15-1 in their first 16 games. Here's what Arnie had to say about that.
I don't really look at it that way. I think we've been pretty consistent all season long, and how we win games is it's been different ways on different nights, and I just think that's been a constant. And like if you won, last 14 have been, maybe not all of them, but they're different because of the fact that Adam has missed quite a few of them. So we've had to have different looks to it, but we still, I think at the end of the day, our structure is still the same as what it was in October and November.
All right, there's Scott Arniel on that. Hey, Jennifer B with the super chat. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Let's one lineup change tonight, and Parker Ford's going to come out. Brad Lambert is going to get in. He'll be looking forward to getting back onto the ice in the bigs. He's going to be playing along with Gus and Alex Iafallo on the 4th line. Here is Scott Arniel on the decision to get Lambert back in the starting lineup.
I just want to get him a game. He's been up here. I know he came up when Scheif got banged up and Coop was sick. We had a couple other centermen sick, and then lost Morgan right away, and felt that Fordo would probably fit in on that line. But I think he's been here and working hard, and just want to throw him in a game here before the break and get an opportunity.
I know earlier it was, play him in the top 6 because that's what he's best suited for. Why the switch?
Yeah, just try a different look. He'll go in and he'll take some right side face-offs, but see him on the wall. We're always talking about needing depth, and you never know where you are 2 weeks from now or a month from now or come playoffs. So just to see these guys in different positions, different roles, it's just something that we can get a look at while we have the opportunity.
What, Reem? I'm here for this decision. Listen, I think Parker Ford did very well in that role, in a role that he's probably a little bit more suited to. But to be honest, the way Gus is playing and Alex Iafallo being, such a versatile guy, I actually think this is a pretty nice spot for Lambert to get into the lineup. And, we saw Parker Ford score from the 4th line. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe a little offense from Brad Lambert tonight. He'll be very fired up to show what he can do, getting another crack to be in the roster.
Yeah, Gus had a little point streak there. Iafallo's been able to chip in a beautiful dish to Nino Niederreiter last game. I mean, was that on a tee or what? After entering the zone and doing a couple dangles there. So sure, Brad Lambert, he's been up. Has time to get him into a game. And this is the spot that they have open. You're going to have to, he's going to play his game, I'm sure. We'll see some speed there. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, Parker Ford came in, did his job, but, Brad's been sitting waiting for an opportunity, and I think he's earned it.
Looking forward to seeing Lambert back in the lineup tonight on that line 4 with Gus and Alex Iafallo. Now, the background of this game is this player break, and I'm sure the players, many of them have plans already to get somewhere warm, get away from the game for a little bit if they're not one of the 3 players that will be representing their countries from the Winnipeg Jets. Kevin Cheveldayoff has said that it could be a busy time talking with representatives and players about potential contract extensions. Scott Arniel was asked about the conversations that he'll have with Chevy during the break about the upcoming trade deadline in his hockey club at the break.
Yeah, I mean, you're always looking at the market. Chevy's always talking to the other GMs. Names are flying around all the time, and I think that for us, we like our hockey team, but if there's somebody there that can make us a little bit better or a little bit deeper, our plan is to play a long time, play into June. You watch or you look at all the teams that have gone that way. They've had to go deep with their roster because of injuries and different things. So, if there's somebody that makes sense for our group, we'll talk about it. But that's just him. That's Chevy doing his due diligence and seeing what's available.
Now, there are some pros and cons of the break coming at this time. I mean, I think a con would be the team's playing as well as any in the National Hockey League and racking up wins, and part of it you'd like to go. There is obviously a benefit to getting some extra rest, and the timing of this, certainly with the injuries to Adam Lowry and Morgan Barron, somewhat advantageous in that Lowry and shortly thereafterwards Barron project to be ready and obviously won't miss games for the next 2 weeks. But Arnie just talked about the pros and cons of going into this 2-week break right now on such a heater.
Yeah, you don't ever want to really have to go into it, but at the same time, we're going to buy time for Morgan and Adam this next couple of weeks to get better. We've got some guys that are banged up like every team at this time. I think the break will be good for us. Our group has done a really good job of focusing. We've talked about this being this season 3 segments and the start to Christmas, being able to get off to a good start, which we did. The tough sort of middle part where it's Christmas to this day, for us it can be it's tough sometimes to keep guys focused and motivated all the time, and I think that we've done a great job of that, certainly have as we've done in the last 10-12 games. But for us, the last 26 will be the big push. Now you're getting into that kind of playoff hockey. You're getting into real desperate teams jockeying for the wild card, jockeying for positions in your division, in the conference. You're really seeing, the big hockey come, and that's sort of our next test for us, and that's something that, we've gone after each challenge, and we'll make sure that we come out of this break that, what we've done in the past, so we've done a real good job of putting games behind us, and it'll be when we come out of that break is focusing on our next opponent and getting the job done.
All right, so there's Jets head coach Scott Arniel on the upcoming break. Now, and we've talked about this on the program. I mean, the team is playing so well, and so many guys that are getting bigger opportunities due to injuries are showing well. You wonder how much do you want to add to this club? There's two sides to the coin, I guess. But Arnie was asked to respond to the suggestion that maybe they don't need to add anyone because they've been a top team in the National Hockey League up until this point.
I'm not saying that's how we may stay or whatever. It just, it's one, we're not sitting here going, oh, we got to fill this hole, and this hole. We're a really good hockey team. But knowing Chevy that if, like I mentioned, if we can, help with our depth or even whatever this scenario might end up being, if it makes us a better hockey club to give us a chance to win the cup, that's what we're after.
Chemistry, though, too, is you got to be aware of that.
Chemistry, right? Chemistry is always important. I think it's always something that you have to be aware of. And, I think that you guys have been kind of through it here the last couple of years.
All right. One other topic that we've been following over this week has been the health of Canadian forwards, because I think we all agreed that with the season that Mark Scheifele's had, he absolutely should be the first call. Probably should already be on the team, but the fact that he's not would be that first call many expect. Mitch Marner's been banged up a little bit this week, but there's been a lot of attention on Sidney Crosby, and Sidney Crosby will not play tonight against the New York Rangers, but he did skate today. Arniel was asked if he's heard anything from Team Canada management regarding Mark Scheifele potentially being a late add to the squad.
Because there's some banged up situations, his name's popped up again, yeah.
What do you say, or what's your input? What do they look for you for?
I think you should be on the team. My input.
Can you tell them that?
No, you know what? Since we got the call that he wasn't going to be on the team, that he was one of the guys that serious consideration. He's played fantastic. He's played had a great year, actually. I take that back. It's all year, but even since that day, he's even taken it up to another notch. So, if it works out for him, great. That'd be a great experience for him. All those guys going to play in that. it's like playing playoff hockey in in February. And that's, you love those guys that get into that and be around those type of players. Those are all good experiences. We'll see where it ends up. Obviously the league goes until Sunday, so we're not sure where everything will play out.
All right, so there's the coach, Scott Arniel, speaking before tonight's game on a number of topics, the break, the trade deadline, and Mark Scheifele is a potential late addition to Team Canada. Mason Appleton also spoke today, and focusing on tonight, the Jet forward talked about the challenge that the Islanders bring, coming in winners of 8 of their last 9 games, and in a desperate situation every night to get back into a wild card spot in the East.
Yeah, I find that they play a very, conservative, well-managed game. They kind of know their identity, and I feel like they're a team that they can almost wait you out in a sense. So you gotta counter that by not getting frustrated and doing what you do best and not changing your identity either, because they can sense that when someone else is getting frustrated, and then it's kind of when they pounce. But they're a very well-structured team, and they do a lot of things right, and they almost try to, in lack of a better word, play a boring game sometimes, and they're very effective at that. And we gotta manage our game and play super fast, and so we got a lot of good skaters in this room, and have the puck on our stick as long as we can, and then get to the interior because they got some big body defensemen as well, and we got to get to that hard ice and win those battles and score greasy goals.
All right, so there's Mason Appleton on the challenge tonight. What did he call them? A conservative, well-managed game? That's one way of putting Islander hockey, Reem.
Yeah, I think he called it boring later in that too. So Appleton choosing his words very carefully, but hey, credit to the Islanders, Huss. The Jets have lost to them in 8 of their last 9 games. They've been held to 1 goal or fewer in 5 of the last 8 games. So we'll see how it goes. The Islanders, I don't know, they've given the Jets trouble. Their last meeting was here where they won, but before that they lost 4 in a row. So we'll see how it goes against the Islanders. I think recent history is more indicative of the current team. But hey, the Jets had some good teams there, and the Islanders seem to always give them trouble. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Islanders squad. Maybe we'll do a little scouting us. So when we have our trade deadline conversations, we can give a more educated opinion on some of these players on this team.
Well, maybe the Jets can help keep the Islanders well under the line and maybe make Brock Nelson a little bit more available to a team like Winnipeg. He would be a great add. Here's one more from Mason Appleton, and he was just asked on how he thinks that Chevy may handle the upcoming deadline.
He can handle it as he wants. You can say this is the best team in the league. We feel we're in a really good spot. Or you could say, you try to add here or there. It's obviously not up to me, and I'm not the GM, but I feel like this team's in a really good spot, and this is kind of the group that was pre-deadline last year for the most part, and at the same time we found ourselves in first place as well. So I think we've got a really good team in this room, and obviously, like I said, I'm not the GM, but we'll see where Chevy goes with it.
All right, so there's Mason Appleton. It's sort of a tough question for him to answer. I mean, you want to give yourself as good a chance to win the Stanley Cup. But again, if you're, a player in the bottom 6, you're like, hey, I want to make sure that I still have that spot in the lineup. We'll talk about a bunch of Jets topics coming up with Rennie in just a minute. Great stuff with Remis, getting those clips from the morning skate before tonight's 7 o'clock puck drop down at Canada Life Center for the Jets and the New York Islanders. Listen, before we bring in Ren, we'll give a big thanks to our friends at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Folks, Rolly's, family owned and operated for over 60 years in Manitoba, has become the most trusted name in moving services in the province. Their logistics business has taken them around the province and southern Manitoba specifically on a daily basis, which means flexible timing and great rates for your next move. And of course, the white glove treatment that Rolly's is famous for. If you have a move planned coming up, what you're going to want to do is head on over to their website at rollys.com. In the top right corner, you'll see the request an estimate tab. Click on that and put in WST in the promo code for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies from our great sponsors at Rolly's. And then simply let them know when you're planning on moving, where you're going to, and what needs to go. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment from the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. For your next move, make it Rollies. Find out more, request an estimate today over at rollies.com. Still pretty chilly outside, folks, and we still got a little distance left in this Winnipeg and southern Manitoba winter. If you're having battery issues, you got to put an end to that ASAP, so you're not that guy calling your buddies for a boost or a ride at the side of the road. If you're wondering how your battery's doing, pop by your local Manitoba battery. 2 locations, Logan Avenue, Dover Court Drive down on the south side. They'll be happy to give you a free battery test right then and there. And if you do need one, you'll be able to pick one up at the best prices in town and save a little more with a core exchange. Manitoba Battery has the best in batteries of all makes and models and the best prices in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores. Visit them in store or check them out online today, manitobabattery.com. They'll deliver the batteries to you as well for free anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. 2 locations, manitobabattery.com. And hey, fellas, I know it's snowy outside, but wedding season is really just around the corner. If you're getting ready for a big day in your life or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F Apparel about getting suited up for the big day. F Apparel is the leaders in custom men's clothing in town, with custom suits beginning at $400, along with chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories around. And of course, they do have a great special for wedding parties when the guys get the suits for the big day together down at F Apparel. Pop in and see them, 190 Smith Street downtown, or find out more online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F, that's EPH Apparel.com. All right, let's welcome in Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet and Kenny and Rennie fame. Rennie, what's up, pal? How are you doing? How's the voice? Are you back in? Are you in recovery mode? Are you back?
I think I'm fully back. It took a while. I lost it for the better part of a week, or didn't have it fully back, but had a doozy of a sickness. Passed it on to the rest of the family, so the household's been struggling with it ever since. But who cares about them? I'm okay, Huss. That's what matters here.
Well, listen, you definitely got the Grit Grinder Award for battling through a couple of those shows afterwards. Much like the Jets have pretty much battled through everything that's been thrown as of the lately. I mean, the start to the season was one thing, Sean, but at this point now, 55 games into the regular season, coming off a perfect road trip, it's this team continues to impress, and I think makes more believers of people that have been holding out on the Winnipeg Jets up until this point, and with good reason.
Yeah, I think there was I forget who does that. I think it's Money Puck, but they've got the wheel, with the best or the chances that everyone has of making the playoffs, going to the second round, third round, fourth round. Winnipeg Jets, top of that model right now with the highest chance of winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, that constantly evolves throughout the season, right? And I know that there's been times the Winnipeg Jets have been number one in that exact same measurement before. So, take that with a grain of salt. But I just think you take a look at the way that this team is playing right now. What more could you ask from the way that this team is playing game after game? They're giving, the old 60-minute effort. The Winnipeg Jets are pretty darn close to that. Every night that you see them play, they are miserable to play against. Trying to get shots through on them is like trying to shoot a puck through a dense thicket. I think that they've made the job really easy on their goaltenders for a long time now. I think their details are bang on. And it comes down to this for me, Huss. The vast majority of the nights I see this team play, they outwork their opposition. So this isn't fool's gold, right? This isn't one of those times that the schedule lined up for the Winnipeg Jets, that they lucked out a couple of games here or there on the way to winning 8 straight. This is just them going out night after night after night and just being the better team, the harder working team, the more detailed team, the team with the better plan. Everything they're doing right now is earned. Everything they're doing right now looks impressive to me.
Ren, we often joke that you are the national media. Are your friends and colleagues in the national media, are they sort of waking up to the fact that the Jets are a team that has, legitimately put them into true Stanley Cup contender right now, or is it taking a little while? I can tell you the bookies and the odds makers are sleeping on the team right now. They're still 15-1. They're 10th in the odds, despite what you see at the analytics sites and what you see in the standings right now. How have your conversations been with some of your colleagues, through this last little run, now that we're well into the second half of the season and the Jets are on top of the standings?
Yeah, the bookie stuff is always weird to me. You'd understand that better than I would. But I've always thought, really, if you're in Winnipeg right now and you're insulted that, the bookies are sleeping on your team, that sounds like opportunity to me. I'm not a betting man, but if you really think that they have it that wrong, then you should be looking at that not as something to be upset about. You should be looking at that as an opportunity.
Great point.
Yeah, that national media wise, it was not long ago I was watching our folks at Sportsnet, and it was a Wednesday night hockey or something like that, and they were talking about the top 3 teams that the 4 analysts on the show had as Stanley Cup contenders, and each of them had their 3rd place pick, each of them had their 2nd place pick, each of them had their 1st place pick, and only one of the 4 people had the Winnipeg Jets as the top 3. No one had them as a number 1, I believe, and I can't remember who it was, but they had the Jets as their 2nd highest seed to win the Stanley Cup. You know what? I take a look at this a couple ways, and I know in Winnipeg people love to be offended by this kind of stuff, right? Oh, we never get respect, this and that. The Winnipeg Jets over the last number of years have earned the skepticism that the national media holds towards this team. Last year, 4th overall, they finished, and they had, kind of fallen apart towards the end of the season before they went on an 8-game winning streak to end the season. To fall out of any chance of winning the President's Trophy. And then we saw what happened to them in the playoffs, this kind of baffling thing that keeps happening with the Winnipeg Jets over and over again in the playoffs, where they find a way to lose 4 straight games and fall out of the playoffs. So I don't see it as something to be insulted by. The Winnipeg Jets have earned the skepticism in the past. Now, the other thing you need to realize for the most part is that this is why it's important to really tune into your local media and shows like, you Hustler and us after the games and Illegal Curve. We watch this team all the time. I can tell you this right now. I can tune into, and I'll use a perfect example. The Ottawa Senators are a team that I've covered quite a bit on Hockey Night in Canada this year. I've got a real good beat on this team, but nowhere near as good a beat on them as I do on the Winnipeg Jets, because I just can't watch every single minute of their hockey the way that I do the Winnipeg Jets. You need to remember the national media, for the most part, is not watching every single Winnipeg Jets game, so they're not seeing what we see. We're not seeing, 8 minutes and 32 seconds into the 3rd period of a game against the Montreal Canadiens, and a game where a lot of teams will start going to sleep. The Winnipeg Jets just keep grinding. They just keep going. Their details are right. Their effort is right over and over again. So it's hard from the outside to see what is making the Winnipeg Jets great. And so I think you've just got too many people who are skeptical because of what happened in years past, who aren't fully caught up on what the Winnipeg Jets are to a T right now. And what I see to a T is a Winnipeg Jets team that outworks almost every team it plays every night. I think they're the hardest working team in hockey right now.
It's a really interesting matchup tonight with the Islanders being in town, in that, the Islanders, so many things that we're describing what the Jets are, tough to play against. A real pain in the ass. That has been the Islanders for a long time, without maybe the high-end scoring and at times world-class goaltending, not necessarily as consistent as Connor Hellebuck. This team comes in and they've really dragged themselves out of the basement. They're right back in the wild card race. That's what happens when you win 8 of your last 9 games. This is also a challenging game, I think, mentally for a lot of players, knowing that as soon as that buzzer's done, they're on a break, on a holidays. Well, with the exception of 3 Jets that are going to be competing and representing their country at the Four Nations tournament. How do you, what do you expect tonight from the Winnipeg Jets? I mean, I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt to come out and be professional each and every night, but this is one of those games on the calendar that you might be a little nervous as to what you get just because of everything around the club, not to mention the success they've had as of late.
Yeah, in years past, the Jets are a team that has struggled with teams that come in with speed. So you always wondered why the Montreal Canadiens were never in the playoffs, and yet they always seemed to give the Jets headache. It's because they had a lot of team speed, and that would expose something in the Jets. I feel like the Jets have solved that problem. Their team defense is just so solid. It takes fast teams and it makes them look slow. Like I thought that Carolina, who can be a really dangerous, fast offensive team, didn't look very fast against the Winnipeg Jets. And I think it's because of the way that the Winnipeg Jets defend and the way that they back check and the way that they pester their opponents. They don't give those players the space on the ice to get up to speed. So I think the shift has happened is that now the teams that the Winnipeg Jets struggle with the most are the teams that are able to kind of grind. And I think we saw that when they played Washington. I don't think Washington, everything that we were told in that game and kind of saw in that game was a Washington team that came off the road and didn't have their best effort. I'm not making an excuse for them. I think the Winnipeg Jets went out, showed who was the better team in that game. But I also don't think that the Winnipeg Jets got the very best from the Washington Capitals. And yet, going up in that game, Washington was able to grind and push their way back into that game and tie it up just because they're that team that just pushes and says, we're just going to keep pushing until we get there. That's an Islanders kind of brand of hockey. They're a team that pushes. So I think that this is a really fun game to watch, and not just because, at 8-2 in their last 10 games, these two teams with matching records are the two hottest teams in hockey right now. But stylistically, this is a matchup I'm very interested to see how the Winnipeg Jets handle it, because I did think one of the things people talk about with Kevin Cheveldayoff heading towards the trade deadline and some of their needs, I do think that for the, one of the few times this year, Washington made Winnipeg's back end look a little bit undersized and like they got pushed around a little bit. That's something that could potentially happen in this game here as well tonight with the really hard grinding forwards that the New York Islanders have.
It was funny listening to Arnie, talk about the pros and cons of going into the break at this time. I mean, obviously there's a benefit that Adam Lowry and Morgan Barron should be better, but you kind of maybe don't want to get onto a break when you're playing the way this team is right now. I mean, what do you make of just the challenge of the next 2 weeks for the Winnipeg Jets to be away from each other, off doing other things, and then coming back for what is going to be a 26-game sprint to the Stanley Cup playoffs with still a lot on the line, but a pretty nice spot in the standings?
There was a time around November where I thought this team fell off it fairly decently, won a lot of games at that time just because they, have always had that opportunistic scoring, and that top line kind of carried them through a little bit of a stretch of down hockey and their goaltending, of course, as well. Outside of that, I've kind of marveled at how much this team has just been like, they understand who they are. They understand that there's a right way to do things. And while it's hard to do things the right way because the style of hockey that they play is a grinding, effort-based style, the Winnipeg Jets just get to it, right? So I kind of see this as a little bit of, because this team has done such a good job of having its effort level there. And like I said, I think being the hardest working team in hockey and, night after night out competing their competition, I think that this team is just going to handle it really well. They're going to walk in, they're going to take their rest because they know no one knows more than the Winnipeg Jets and their players how hard it is to play the style of hockey that they're playing. So I think you're going to see them get into, a nice little bit of rest here and then come out of it and hit the ground running all over again. I actually think of all that, we're looking at this as maybe interrupting the Jets, something good that they've got going on here. I don't think it's just just a momentum thing here with the Winnipeg Jets. I think they know their identity. So I actually think that this break benefits the Jets more than most other teams in the NHL. This is a good thing for them.
Ren, I'll be honest. I mean, you watch this team play night in and night out, and there are times where I kind of think, well, as it pertains to the trade deadline, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, I think it's obvious the team can improve in some ways, but has your evaluation of the team's needs changed at all over the last couple months? And where are you at right now, if you were Kevin Cheveldayoff, as to where the targets should be and how aggressive they need to be in particular spots in the lineup if they really want to do the job with a 2-month playoff run?
Well, I think that game against Washington showed them that they need more size on the back end. So I expect them to address that with at least one player. And then other than that, it gets really, really tricky, because the idea of how Rasmus Kupari is filled in on that third line opens up what we've seen in the past, which is Adam Lowry potentially going up to that second line. So you've already got the built-in, if Vladislav Nemestikov isn't working at 2C, you could try Adam Lowry. The one thing that's tricky about this is the Jets went out last year and tried to fix that second line, which wasn't performing the way they wanted it to perform. They went out and they got Sean Monahan, who seemed to work. They got Tyler Toffoli, who in the end did not work, and they could not find what they were looking for there. To your point of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What you're seeing right now from Nemestikov and Ehlers and Perfetti is a chemistry and a great defensive style of game, but an offensive awareness that we haven't seen from this line yet that makes you think, boy, oh boy, the chemistry that they've been looking for is finally there. Do you upset that chemistry if you bring in a brand new 2C in that situation? And if you do that based on Cole Perfetti's kind of quiet times and then his boom and bust style of play, if you're going to go do that, and then you have to worry about is Cole Perfetti going to fit alongside whoever you bring in? Do you have to go get another guy there? I do think while it's tricky, I think Scott Arniel kind of answered the question in saying we expect to be playing hockey in June. They think that they've got a shot of going to the Stanley Cup, and what they've seen in the past from other teams is you drown yourself in options, you drown yourself in depth, and then you've got the option, right? If you end up going and getting a number of players, and then you go out and you end up staying with Nemestikov and Ehlers and Perfetti on that second line anyway, because it's working, and don't stop what's working. But I would think with the cap space that they have, the Winnipeg Jets are going to go out and they're going to give themselves as many options as possible, and the kind of options that allow them to ice a certain kind of lineup against speedy teams, a certain kind of lineup against heavy teams. I think the Winnipeg Jets think that this is the best shot that they have had and may have going forward. So they're going to go all in, and they're going to add as much as they can.
You mentioned Perfetti. I wanted to ask you about him. I mean, I'll be honest, and maybe I'm guilty of sort of living in the moment, but, considering the year that he had last year, and despite the fact that I really do believe and said all year, I think he's got a lot more fight to his game. I think he's able to compete more in these battles. But, I mean, it was 3 weeks or a month ago that he was in another extended offensive dip, and I was, really thinking that it wouldn't have surprised me if Cole Perfetti, being a talented young player that, wasn't getting a lot done at that point, might have been a piece that the Winnipeg Jets would use as a trade chip. How much do you think that he has improved his lot right now at being not only a player that can be counted on, to be productive, to be in the lineup, but to be part of the Winnipeg Jets playoff roster? And has the chances that he might find himself on another team after March 8th diminished significantly based on what he and the line's been doing as of late?
Yeah, I don't think the Jets ever really like moving their guys. I mean, and the one thing that they've shown year after year after year is they draft their guys, they throw all their faith into those guys, and they usually get those guys to where they want them to go. As for the question of Perfetti and what he's done and to kind of instill that confidence in him, I don't even think it's just the results, because the thing with Cole is when we've seen him with the kind of hot and cold style of game that he has. I've said this in the past, the kind of offense that he would typically generate in those boom times. I would find, think about earlier in the year, I think he had a 4-point game against the San Jose Sharks. And then I can't remember the next game that he put up a number of points, but it always felt to me like when the games got easy, that's when Cole would pop up with a whole bunch of points. The thing that I think that his coaching staff will be noticing now is that's not the case. He's coming out and he's showing up in the games where it's hardest, right? Like that game against the Washington Capitals, he's the guy who really gets the Winnipeg Jets going and off the ground at the start of that game against a team that is the third biggest team and one of the heaviest teams in the NHL. It is not easy to score against the Washington Capitals. In order to do it, you are going to have to find yourself going to the hardest areas of the ice. And that's what I think we're seeing from Cole lately, which is a reason that the Winnipeg Jets can think maybe, just maybe, this guy has turned the corner, right? He's not the guy who pops up in the games where they're playing a team that's defensively deficient and kind of falling apart and, getting blown out. So they, goals 5, 6, and 7 are ones where the other team is kind of wave the white flag, and that's where Cole's getting his points. He's starting to get his points at the hardest of times. So I think, the Jets have a little bit of time here, and they get to watch and see if Cole Perfetti stays on top of that. If he does, I think it gives them all kinds of faith. And they know that this is a player that even, he's shown well offensively, even though there's big empty spaces of his game that are there for improvement. If you can take this player and get him to consistency, he could be really dangerous. So I don't see him as being an asset that the Jets are overly interested in moving, unless there is a deal out there that is just like, we have to move on this. We have to move on it now. And it's the kind of deal that would get the Jets a player who is going to be locked down for a number of years going forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm certainly not pitching or suggesting to trade Cole, far from it. It's just that, if we're talking about a top 6 center or a top 4 right shot defenseman, you got to pay through the nose to acquire something like that. And, I think at this point, just about everything would be on the table. Remo, you might want to do a poll for this one, but I want to give this to Sean, and I'll give it to the chat as well. Why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp over at Waverly and McGillivray? As we arrive at the break, Sean, 55 games in, it'll be 56 after tonight. Which member of the Winnipeg Jets this season has exceeded your expectations the most? I mean, I think there's a lot of guys that are having amazing seasons beyond what we probably thought they would do going into the year. But if you had to single out one guy that is, really upped his game and been a big difference maker through it, where would you settle on?
Yeah, with the guys on the top line and everything like that, this is a hard question to ask. Even a guy like Hellebuck, who's found a way to elevate his game when he was already at the top of the mountain. To me, this actually isn't even close, even though you're getting career years from so many of these guys. But Dylan Samberg, to me, has gone from last season, a very, very solid third pairing guy. He had a little bit of, a little bit of trouble in the playoffs last season. He didn't show overly great in the playoffs. I was wondering how he'd come back from that. But, the loss of Dylan Samberg for Brendan Dillon was one that people were really worried. You were losing size, you were losing toughness, you were losing grit. That was supposed to be a really big hole in the lineup. It should have been a really big hole in the lineup. And instead, to me, Dylan Samberg stepped into that role, grew beyond that role. I think he's one of the best shutdown big men in the entirety of the game. He doesn't have that grit level, I shouldn't say that grit level, but he doesn't have that edge that Brendan Dillon had. So I think that for some people, it's a little bit harder to see what he does well. But I think this guy just snuffs out dangerous opportunity after dangerous opportunity. He's kind of like the defensive version of Hellebuck. We talk about Hellebuck and how it almost doesn't look like he's making great saves because he's just so big and boring, and he's jumping, the play and getting there before the puck is even shot, that it's hard to see how great he is because there's no panic to his game because he's so far ahead of it. There doesn't need to be panic. To me, Dylan Sandberg is the same thing. And I think we ran something in that Washington Capitals game that I was talking about. Their record with him, their points percentage with Dylan Sandberg in the lineup is like 790. And without him, it's like 570 or something like that. The drop off in this team when Dylan Sandberg wasn't in the lineup was stark. It was absolutely stark. So I think Dylan Sandberg has come leaps and bounds and is the kind of player that if the Winnipeg Jets can lock him up long term, he is just going to be the human eraser for this team for a long time to come. Super savvy draft pick by the Winnipeg Jets and great development of a player to get him to a place that I don't know a lot of people thought he could get to. And I honestly think a lot of people don't understand the level that he's playing at.
Yeah, no, listen, I can't argue with that. I mean, to me, the top two guys for that honor are defense partners. I mean, I'll put Neil Pionk in there as well. But I think, when you look at, the results that Pionk had playing with Fleury when Sandberg wasn't there, as well as the team, I think Dylan probably gets the nod. But, I mean, the fact that those guys have turned into such an effective second pairing with the massive question mark going into the season, it can't be overstated how important that's been. And then a non-player thing, but, I mean, this power play, which is, just simply unbelievable to watch work each and every day. We'll talk about that with Eric Comrie coming up. I think people get a kick out of that. Sean, this has been awesome. So one more KNR tonight, and then a couple weeks with no NHL hockey. Are you off? Are you going to be getting some sunshine? Will you be caddying for Ken down in the in Mexico? What's on tabs for you with no KNR and no Jets games for 2 weeks?
Well, Ken can't afford my caddying fee, first off, and he wouldn't want to pay it because I would bring nothing to the table in that regard.
It'd be a good time. Yeah, hey.
I'd be a good time.
Ken's
I wouldn't be able to help
serious
with any of that. Yes, Ken's trying to score well, and I'm not the guy you want to take if you're trying to score well. Just going to be able to slip away for a little bit of sun with the family. Looking forward to that and recharging. I think I've people on the podcast know I've got some Hockey Night Canada games when I get back. When Ovi gets within 5 of passing Gretzky's record, I go on the road and I follow him until he breaks that record. So I'm trying to get as much in here before I end up on the road for a while. Who knows, the way that the clip he's going at it right now, maybe that trip will come sooner than I thought it would, and maybe it won't be as long as I thought it would be because he's got four goals in 4 straight games. The way he's going right now, we could be dealing with that in mid-March.
Well, between the Winnipeg Jets and Alex Ovechkin, you've got a very busy few months coming up. So enjoy this break. Have a great show tonight. Glad you're feeling better and sounding a lot better. Thanks so much for doing this, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Huss. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. There's Sean Reynolds. You know where to go after the game tonight. KNR on the Kenny and Rennie channel one more time for the next 2 weeks before the league breaks for the 4 nations. All right, let's get to some fan feedback for fans first. We asked you who has been who's exceeded your expectations the most, and like Ken, a lot of love for Sandberg. BA Split has Sandberg. Hockey Mom has Sandberg. Darth Skater mentions Rasmus Kapari. And Kapari's definitely in the mix. People will remember my expectations were very low. In fact, I was shocked he was on the roster at the beginning of the season over David Gustafsson to be playing at least. He's been great this year. And now both of them are getting the opportunity to play without Adam Lowry in. I mean, Jay Miller says Hellebuck. And I think you can make the argument in the fact that, Hellebuck has been so brilliant that even with the high standard that he's set here in Winnipeg, he's exceeded even that. Some other support for Sandberg from Nicole J. and TH Power. Matt Hyman mentions Neil Pionk. I love that selection as well. And then a whole bunch more popping in here right now. Some love for Kupari. And Kupari holding his own. Kupari's the most unexpected from Schickster. We already had high hopes for Sandberg. Keep the fan feedback coming. Fan feedback's brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market. When you go to fansfirst.ca looking for tickets, what you see is what you pay. No fees added onto the price, which people love. And from a seller's standpoint, as a season ticket holder, an incredible resource to sell tickets when you do have an extra pair at a fair price with the best customer service around. Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.ca. All right, we've got Eric Comrie coming up. We will get to the Super Bowl a little later on. David Sanchez is going to join us from Nolens. And we can't go into the final game of the NFL season without one more NFL notebook with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Marbles coming up later on. But first, a big thanks to Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Princess Auto is synonymous with the city of Winnipeg. Of course, the home of the Bombers is Princess Auto Stadium. And Princess Auto was founded and still headquartered right here in Winnipeg while being coast to coast across the country. Princess Auto has 3 locations in the province: Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course, Brandon for our friends in Westman, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. And if you can't pop by and see them in store, get those ideas working in between the ears and pick up whatever you want by shopping online at princessauto.com 24/7, 365. All right, the tariffs are off for the time being, which means that the Winnipeg Whiskey Festival is going on as planned. You can buy all your favorite options. Officially on Monday, we will launch tickets for our Whiskey Fest event, the whiskey tasting at the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame on February 27th. We're going to be educated in bourbons with our friends from Maker's Mark. It's going to be a really, really fun night. We've got a bunch of questions about picking up tickets. If you're on our WST mailing list, you'll get a link this weekend. And again, it's very limited seating, so jump on those as soon as you have the opportunity to do so. And we'll have all the details and everything ready to go for Monday's show as well. But if you do want a heads up on that first, sign up for the Winnipeg Sports Talk mailing list, and you'll have something over the course of the weekend, and everything will be good to go on Friday for the main show. Thursday, February 27th, Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame will be learning and enjoying about the wonderful world of bourbon, and considering most of the bourbon is made in and around the Tennessee area, perfect time to watch the Jets and Nashville Predators, which we'll be doing there as well. So hope you can join us. Of course, brought to you by our great friends at Beam Suntory, proud sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk, and the folks that bring you Canada's favorite Canadian whiskey, Canadian Club. Got to thank our friends at Wallace & Wallace as well for their support of WST. Of course, we're looking ahead to spring. Wallace & Wallace is getting ready to be real busy as usual as the fencing and overhead door specialist in Winnipeg, serving residential and commercial customers since 1946. If your property needs the security and protection of a new fence, they've got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, wood fences, whatever you need. Wallace & Wallace are the leaders in it. And if it's time to replace your garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. Give them a call at 452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will be happy to come down to your home and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lowson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right, lots coming up on the big game on Sunday in New Orleans between the Eagles and Chiefs. But first, coming off his big 3-0 shutout against the Carolina Hurricanes, always fun to welcome Eric Comrie to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Eric, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back on. It's been a little while. I mean, I feel like it's been too long.
It has been too long, and we're glad you had the time to jump on. And hey, what a great time to do it. I mean, I want to talk more about the season overall and how you and the fellas are feeling heading into this game tonight and, of course, the break. But must have been nice to get that shutout. I mean, first of all, it's about winning, and your team has been doing a lot of it. But always nice to put up a goose egg, especially against a quality team like the Carolina Hurricanes.
I mean, definitely you take the result. Definitely take the result. I always take a shutout no matter what the circumstances are, doesn't matter who we're playing against. I always take the shutout. I mean, the guys just played so good that game. It was a big game. We've had a stretch here where that's our 7th game in a row we won. We're just playing unbelievable hockey right now, and it's just an absolute pleasure to play with these guys. And we're playing hard. We're playing the right way. I think Arnie has us just so dialed in what we have to be doing. I think it's special to watch right now.
Well, and listen, for you, I mean, you were due a night like that. I mean, you had a little bit of bad luck so far this season. I mean, what was that like for you? Kind of taking, I mean, listen, this team hasn't lost very many hockey games, and whether it was a couple tough back-to-backs or whatever. I mean, it wasn't like you were getting lit up or anything, but just on the few odd occasions where the team maybe didn't have the offensive pop we're used to, you happened to be in the net. But good to put that behind you.
Yes, it was definitely good. I mean, there was a couple. It was strange. It was like we're the highest scoring team in the league, and then also when we're scoring. But you know what? Throughout the whole process, I know Wade, myself, and Helly, we were going over my video, and we were all very happy with the way I was playing, and the process was right, and I was playing the game the way I was supposed to be playing it. I was doing all the little things right. Just unfortunately, sometimes you don't get results, and sometimes you get results in this game. You just have to stay the course. And I think I did a really good job of just making sure, like saying, hey, look at the video is right. The way I'm playing is right. The results will start coming here.
Now, I want to ask you about the team overall because, you came back, you knew these guys beforehand. But, I mean, it is a little different right now than, previous incarnations of this team. And certainly, I mean, the team is on, the verge of doing something that no Jet team has done, winning the West, potentially a President's Trophy. And it just seems like all along you guys are having so much fun together night in and night out. And there's nothing more fun being a professional athlete than winning. But how would you describe just the way this team has come together and what you've been able to do through 55 games so far?
I mean, it's been special. I mean, I think Arnie just has us real dialed in. I think start of the year we did some team building stuff, and I think we just kept growing from there and growing and just getting closer and closer. And I think we just understood that, like, we put together a couple things we wanted to do this year, like whether it was compete the hard areas, 10% more, just little things like that, just little cues of that. And I think everyone's really bought into it. I think we're battling hard every single night, and we're holding each other accountable. But we're having fun. I mean, we're all playing and it's true. I think we truly are. We have a lot of good friends on the team. We're all very, very close people. We get along very well. And it pays off. I mean, we have fun every time we go to the rink. We laugh, we joke, it's a good group of guys to be around. And I have so much fun every single day to go to the rink. I mean, I look forward to it. I mean, Arnie always bugs me that I spend too much time at the rink. He's always like, "Go home, Combs, get home. You have a wife and a daughter. Go home." And I'm like, "Wow, I'm just having so much fun here. It's hard to leave."
Oh man, I think that's the dream of every coach in the National Hockey League. How important is that to overall team success? And how would that maybe, in your mind, help you guys not get into some funks or, able to, if you lose a game or two, be able to, stop it in its tracks and get back to doing what you've been doing most of the time this year, and that's winning?
Well, I think having good players definitely helps that. And we have some good players on this team, so that definitely helps. I mean, honestly, we play – and we understand our identity we're a defense-first team. We play very solid defense. I think Arnie and our coaching staff have done a really good job at making sure that we understand, like, hey, defense is our bread and butter. We've got to stick to that and make sure we play as good as defense as we can. And our chances will come because we have very highly skilled offensive players that know how to put the puck in the net. So it's going to happen. So I mean, if we just contribute and play good defense, we're going to get our chances, and we're going to probably bury on our chances. That's what makes it so good. And it also helps that Connor Hellebuyck in the net a lot too, because he's pretty good. If you guys haven't noticed yet.
We'll get to your goaltending partner in a minute, but it is sort of amazing. I mean, you speak about a team that their identity is based on, solid defense and limiting chances, and then you pull up the stats, and there's no team that scored more goals in the National Hockey League, and it kind of seems like the greater attention to detail and commitment to that, Eric, has allowed this team to be even more potent offensively.
It's like that one commercial. Our defense leads to offense, and our offense leads to defense. You know, you remember that old commercial back in the day? Yeah. So it's kind of, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. I mean, when you have good defense, it will lead to your offense, and I think we frustrate teams, and then teams start taking chances, and we capitalize on the chances that we create because of our good defense. And it's a pleasure to watch, and it's also a lot of fun to be a goalie on this team. I'll tell you that. Well,
speaking of goalies, you mentioned your goaltending partner, Connor Hellebuck. He is doing some really special things. What's it like going to work every day and being part of that twosome in the net with Hellebuck, and maybe just thoughts on how he's raised his game, if it was possible, another level this year?
I mean, it's unbelievable to watch. I mean, like I always said, the biggest compliment I can give Helly is that every single goal that goes in seems like he can stop it. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible, because it never looks like he's out of position. Every single time it's like, oh, he could have probably been there and stopped that one. I'm like, yeah, because 99% of the goalies would have played it differently and been all over and spread out. He's always in the right position. He's always in the right place. He reads the game so well. He gives himself the best opportunity to make the save night in and night out. And I think that's a special thing for a goalie, because a lot of people don't have that. And yes, they'll get lucky every once in a while and have a great game or make a great save. Helly sets himself up for success every single time, because he's always in the right spot, always in the right position. And it's an absolute joy to watch. I mean, it's like watching a goalie how-to video every single night for me. So it definitely helps us. I mean, it's awesome. It's unbelievable.
How would you describe your guys' relationship? I mean, just from speaking with you, I mean, I love listening to Connor. He's one of the more interesting guys, I think, in the league to speak to, because he pretty much always tells you what you're thinking. I mean, you're you're a treat to talk to, because I mean, you're always have something to say. But Phil, take us behind the scenes. I mean, the relationship between the two of you, and how you work with Wade Flaherty, who I'm sure you would agree has been a big part of both of your successes.
Flats is Wade Flaherty. I call him Flats. So if I refer him as Flats, that's what I'll refer to him as from now on in the interview, just so that everyone knows. Flats is awesome. He's the best. I mean, I think he's one of the best goalie coaches, if not the best in the world. He's unbelievable, understanding the position so well. And I think having him, myself, and Helly, we go over video as all three of us together. It's not just one or two guys. It's always all three of us together. We're going over it. We're sitting down every single day, going over the video, going over the stuff. I mean, and we have just a great relationship together. We go for dinners every once in a while. Helly and I go to dinner a lot. We are really close. We're really good friends. I mean, we talk a lot about each other. Our wives are friends. One day our kids will be friends, because I know my daughter's a little young to be friends with his kids. So, but one day they'll be friends, and it's awesome. And we have such a good relationship. We're always together. We're always with each other, and it's great.
Success sort of breeds success. And I mean, the start of the year, 15-1, historic start to the season. Yeah. But again, you hadn't been here last year, and you came and rejoined the team in the offseason after that really disappointing loss for the Jets to the Avalanche. And, we heard from a number of players. I mean, there were some, tough conversations, some very honest conversations at the end of this year. And they came back and kind of owned what happened last year and looked to be better in every aspect. As someone that wasn't with the team, how would you say the teammates in the group overall has sort of, faced down the failures in the past, and how has that made this team better and as consistently good as they've been this year?
It's a tough question, because it's I can tell the team guys definitely have some stuff inside of them. They're working so hard, and they're getting out of it, and they're playing so hard because they had that little chip on their shoulder from last year in the playoffs. But we try not to speak about it at all. We don't really talk about it. I mean, we have a new coaching staff. It wasn't the same coaching staff we had last year. We have a lot of different new faces. The team's a lot of the same guys, but they understand, like, hey, that's last year. We have a little chip on our shoulder. We can play through it, but hey, we're on to a new year. This is a new team. It's all about now. It's not about last year. It's about what we're doing now. And I think everyone's done a really good job of buying into that and just being fully present in the moment that we are in.
Now, I have to ask you this, and you'll have a very interesting perspective, because being a goaltender, you're not really a part of it. But, I mean, if you looked at the difference from last season to this season, I mean, what the power play has become a nuclear weapon. I mean, your team right now has a 5% gap over the number 2 team. And if this was to continue, would have the best power play in the history of the National Hockey League. I mean, that is how good that it's been. What's it been like watching that from the bench? And just thoughts on the changes that have been made, the success you're having, and how that can help this team moving forward, and especially in the postseason.
So my joke is always on the bench. As soon as we get a power play in a 0-0 game, I say, 1-0. And if it's 1-0, I say, 2-0 if we get another one. So my joke is like it's pretty much never we're going to score, and it's just when we're going to score in the power play, not how. It's when and how, not if. And it's unbelievable. I mean, and that goes a credit to those guys. I mean, they work really hard. And honestly, Painter, our PP coach, I got to give him a lot of credit to him. He's a very, very detailed, very much about the process of the power play. Does an unbelievable job of getting those guys ready every single night. I mean, those guys, as PP meetings must last what feels like 20, 30 minutes because they're going over so much stuff, and it's working really well for them. It's unbelievable to see. Painter's been really, really good for that group. Davis Payne, he's been unbelievable as a coach, and I think that's helped them a lot. But I think the players have really bought into it and are working hard to get in. I mean, once again, we also have a lot of talent on that power play. I mean, Josh Morrissey, Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Velarde, Nikolai Ehlers. That's pretty good. And then our second power play, it's not too bad either. They've been hot lately too.
Well, and it was funny. We were talking about it before the game on Tuesday, and John Shannon was on, and he was mentioning, hey, don't forget about that second power play unit. And sure enough, they scored.
Bang, bang.
And you know what? And the other side of that though is the PK. And I think about guys that are kind of more unsung. I mean, certainly Nino Niederreiter, being on that second power play unit, but a guy like Alex Iafallo and what he's contributing, whether he's on the first line, whether he's on the fourth line, out in the PK. I mean, that is the one thing about this team. While it's easy to get mesmerized by the numbers that Hellebuck's putting forward, or Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele being in the top 5 in goal scoring, I mean, especially right now without your captain, Adam Lowry, Eric, it seems like everyone is finding their opportunity to contribute and make a difference night in and night out.
No, it's unbelievable. I truly think it's unbelievable. But I think it's just the buy-in we have. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares where they're on that lineup sheet. Nobody cares where they're slated into. They just go out there and they play the way that we want to play. They play Jet hockey, the way that Arnie's laid it out for them. And I think it's unbelievable that just the amount of buy-in and commitment to the game we have. And it's I mean, once again, it's just up and down that lineup. And it's just a bunch of guys. We're just having fun going out there and just working as hard as we can, competing as hard as we can. We don't care where we are on the lineup sheet. We don't care about that stuff. We just want to win hockey games together and have fun doing it.
You know what? You mentioned Scott Arniel as well. I'm interested in just your perspective on what you've learned about Scott as a coach and kind of what he's brought to the group to help move this thing forward and take that next step.
I mean, he's been awesome. I mean, we had a gala last night, and someone said his winning percentage since taking over for Bones. I mean, they included a couple of games last year. I didn't have Bones at all, but Arnie's been unbelievable, and his winning percentage has been amazing. It's unbelievable to see. I mean, I don't even know what it is, like 0.7 something. It's crazy right now, and he's been unbelievable. I think he just gets us buying in and playing unbelievable defense, and just really understands like what pushes our buttons. And it's been an absolute pleasure to play for him. He's a great guy, but he keeps us accountable, keeps us honest. But he knows when and how to do it. And it's been a lot of fun this year. I think he's been great for us.
There's an element of, from Arniel that I think, in a lot of ways is emblematic of the team. Like a level of pride in doing what you're doing every day, enjoying the success, but also a real humility as well, that there's still so much work left to be done, and a commitment to continue doing it.
Oh, 100%. I mean, he lives in the city. He lives and breathes the city. He loves it here. He loves Winnipeg. Loves being a part of the Jets. And once again, we're just a bunch of guys. We're humble. We understand what we want to do. We are very goal committed, and we're doing it together as a team. It's not about one guy. I mean, whether it's Hellebuck, who's having an unbelievable year, or Kyle Connor, an unbelievable year, Mark Scheifele's having an unbelievable year. Like you said, it's just 23, 24 guys going out there every single night and just doing the best they can for the Winnipeg Jets. And you don't get that a lot. A lot of teams are a lot more selfish. They want to worry about what they're doing, what their guys are doing. But this team is really bought in, and it's a pleasure to be with.
Eric Comrie of the Winnipeg Jets with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Eric, let me ask you this. There was the annual athletic players poll that came out yesterday, and they ask what team is on your no-trade list, and Winnipeg is like 48%, number one in the league. What are those 48% of NHL players missing about being a Winnipeg Jet and playing in the city of Winnipeg? Because we know you've come back more than once.
Well, I mean, just come talk to me. I mean, I come back all the time. I love being back in Winnipeg. It's my first team on my trade list that I want to go to. No, but like, you look at that poll, and I mean, I know a big one is the Canadian teams. All the Canadian teams are always on there, and that's just purely a tax reason. So you got to remember that's going to be a big portion of the people that say no right there, just taxes. A lot of people don't want to live in Canada for that reason. You look at New York, the same thing. A lot of people don't want New York or California just because of that same exact reason. And I don't know. I guess I've lived in I guess people don't like the weather here. I lived in places where it's rainy and gloomy every single day and you don't see the sun. I love Winnipeg weather in the winter. I see the sun every single day and it makes me happy every single day I wake up, and I don't understand why people, oh, Winnipeg, the weather's so bad. I think weather's great here. I see the sun pretty much all day, all winter long, and it's amazing. When I was in Buffalo, I never saw the sun. When you're in Vancouver, you never see the sun. When you're in Seattle, you never see the sun. I think that's the biggest thing that keeps you happy is the sun. And not only that, but I think we also have a great organization that you want to come to. I mean, we have a bunch of guys in that room that have a lot of fun, and everyone that comes here ends up loving it. I mean, look at DeMello, came from Ottawa and San Jose, loves it. Dylan loved it here. All these guys just come here and just absolutely love Winnipeg. They love the organization. They always want to be back, and it's something to be said about being in a family and a tight-knit room and people that really care about you. And I think Mark Shipman, the owner, it starts with him. He's unbelievable how much he cares about us and cares as the players. He wants to be better, whether he's doing the extra thing to make sure our locker room is perfect, make sure everything's right in the meals. Our meals are unbelievable, making sure that he takes care of us the best he can. It's unbelievable to be a part of it. After every game, he's in there giving us handshakes, saying, hey, I just appreciate you guys. I love the work you're doing. And he really lives and breathes this city, and he lives and breathes the Jets. Like, it's awesome to be a part of. He cares so much about us. And I wish guys would see how much people in the city love the team and how much Mark Shipman loves this team, because he does everything possible to make the best we can. And we have such a great experience here. I mean, I love it here.
You know, it's funny. I mean, all of that is a great place to start. And I don't think anything can replace having a chance to win a Stanley Cup and being on a winning team. And that's another thing that you and your teammates, I think, are doing. And it speaks for itself. I mean, you mentioned...
I didn't even mention that part, because just because I was looking at it more of like a year run, like forever thing. Because, I mean, teams go up and down throughout the years, and it's unbelievable how Kevin Chevedale does an amazing job of making sure this team's always good. It's unbelievable. We always have great players. It gets the pieces in here. And it's been awesome. It's been so much fun. And this is a really good hockey team.
It speaks for itself with Scheifele and Hellebuck and Niederreiter and DeMello. I mean, guys that would have significant options deciding to stay here going forward. And
they come here, they see how great it is. They see how well we get treated. They see all the things we do. They see the fans. They see the passion around the city. It's a hard place to say no to once you get here. And it's been awesome. I love it here. I mean, I always come back here eventually.
Hey, how big, I mean, at least you guys have played a lot of hockey. It's been intense. You've done a great job so far. How, with the exception of the three guys that have the opportunity to play for their country, how much are you looking forward to the break, and how much do you think this might benefit the team when you get back on and get ready for 26 more games of the regular season and hopefully a number of rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I'm no general manager of the team, but I think we should have a couple more guys in that tournament too. But that's not my job.
You're not the only one.
It's not my job to say or not, so I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one. But I just putting it out there. No, I mean it's gonna be a good little time off. I think we're gonna have a good break. For myself, it's gonna be back home in California. We're gonna get a little bit of golfing, relaxing a little bit, and get back into it. I mean, I'm gonna make sure I stay in shape, stay working out, and get on the ice as much as I can. And we'll definitely be back and have skating a lot, but I'm going to work on the golf game. We'll see how rusty it is. Hopefully it's not too bad. I got some big games set up, so hopefully it's not too bad.
I mean, I guess there's part of you think that, man, of all the times for a break when you're on a 7-game heater in first place, maybe you could push it back a little bit, but it will be. Are you going to be, I'm sure you'll be watching the Four Nations.
Oh, I'm super excited to watch. I don't know who to cheer for yet, though.
It's
I don't know
tough,
who to cheer for.
Sure
I was trying to figure out who to cheer for, because I'm like, I am Canadian. I want to cheer for Canada, but I'm also a little bit mad at Canada. So at the couple of people they didn't take, so I don't know. So I'm like, well, can I cheer for Helly then? But then I'm cheering against Josh. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I think you're. There's a lot of Jet fans that are in a similar spot as that with you. Eric,
who are you going to cheer for?
Well, I'm going to cheer for Canada. I've got the Royal Sports is getting my Morrissey jersey done up. I'm going to be there in Boston for the game on the Monday and hope the final as well. So
you're cheering against two Jets. You're cheering for one Jet against two Jets.
I will be. I figured the passport has to count first and everything. However,
okay.
I will say this. If for some reason it is not Canada-USA in the final and Canada's not there, I will have a USA 37 to put on to make sure that I'm supporting
37/81
our guy. Exactly. Yeah, maybe we'll get 81s on the sides or something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. And listen, just as a hockey fan, I mean, we've wanted to see the best Canadians go up against the best Americans. Never mind the Swedes and the Finns for a long time, and I think it'll be it'll be very fun. People are going to be really into it, and then, of course, the Olympics next year. But we'll worry about that later. We got a big playoff run to come to. Sorry?
What roster is better, Canada or USA?
Well, it's funny. I would say I think I might give the nod to Canada. However, I think there's a massive advantage in net for the United States, and you know how important goaltending is. So
so we'll see, especially in one game.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's where we hope that it ends up with those teams going at it for the Four Nations, and then everyone coming back fired up, getting ready to go for the rest of the regular season and the Stanley Cup playoffs. Eric, listen, before I go, I have to ask you, what do you think about the big game on Sunday? Chiefs, Eagles, Mahomes going for history, the three-peat, Philly trying to get them back after losing 2 years ago.
Can't give Andy Reid and that defense coordinator there, Spagnuolo, 2 weeks to prepare and not light their odds.
That's the right answer.
you cannot light their odds. I mean, Andy Reid and Spagnuolo, 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, it's a little unfair in my opinion. I don't think you can compete with that. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm with you. I'm with you on the Chiefs, and I know there's a lot of people pulling for the Eagles, but Mahomes truly is.
I saw the map of the USA, and it said, I don't think anyone's cheering for anyone to win. I think they just want both teams to lose.
Big support for the Chiefs in Missouri, and that's about it.
That's about it. And then the Eagles have a little bit of Pennsylvania, too, and that's about it as well.
Yeah, they're not particularly popular outside their home area as well at normal times.
Philly fans are very passionate. Let's put it that way.
Hey, I have to ask you, how did the fantasy season end up for you and the fellas in the room?
So, unfortunately, I wasn't with the team for the fantasy football, so I wasn't on their football team. But I did win my keeper league. I smashed it this year, won it big time. Actually, Scheifele, I have a guillotine league that we're in, and Scheifele and J-Mo are in it. Scheifele won that one this year, and that's actually the most fun league I've ever been in part of my life. Where it's like each week you don't actually play head to head. You just draft, and then whoever's in last place gets eliminated, and their guys go to auction. You can bid on them. So Scheifele ended up winning it, and he might be the best fantasy football guy I've ever seen in my life. If you want a guy that knows fantasy football, Mark Scheifele knows fantasy football. He did not win the Jets thing this year, but he won it 2 years ago when he finished with the most points again this year. Won the guillotine league. He was in our guillotine league. He went third, second, first now. So in 3 years of playing it, he knows fantasy football. It's a little bit, I don't know how he knows fantasy football. Doesn't have any social media, nothing. This guy just knows.
He's putting in the work. You know that he's going back home, much like he does with his hockey game.
I don't even think he has a phone. I think he's going back to the old newspaper days and reading the stat lines that way.
He's got some stringers. Maybe he has a staff that he's put together. You never know.
He might have an analytics staff. You never know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a whole analytics. Actually, funny story about that actually is our Buffalo Sabres fantasy, our old fantasy Buffalo Sabres guys, Rasmus Dahlin's brother is an analytics person, and he was a computer engineer analytics person, and he would always run Rasmus Dahlin's fantasy team for him, and he would always win it every year by huge margin. And they finally said, hey, you got to stop using your brother, and you got to do it yourself. Sure enough, he didn't use his brother, finished dead last in the league. So there you go. For all your analytic people out there, it helps.
Oh, man. Eric, it's such a pleasure having you on the program, as always, and catching up. Thanks again for doing this. I have to ask just on the way, how's dad life? You got your hands full right now. How is the family and your daughter?
She's sitting right over there. You can probably hear her a little bit here and there. She's with my wife, and My wife's going to give birth to another one pretty soon here in April. April 7th is the due date for our baby boy. So I'm going to have a daughter and a baby boy, 2 German Shepherds and a wife. So at least I'm getting the numbers back even. Right now it's 3 girls to 2 boys in the house. We're going to be 3 and 3 pretty soon. So I'm excited to get back to even.
Hey, congratulations on that. That is amazing. And listen, you and the team will have a little baby swag heading into the playoffs. That's always a good thing.
I know. I'm excited it's always a little nerve-wracking because now we're playing man-on-man, no longer zone coverage. So we'll see how that goes.
Eric, you're the best, buddy. Congratulations again on the great season so far. The shutout on Tuesday. Have a great break, and best of luck to you and your teammates throughout the rest of the season and into April and beyond.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me know whenever you want me back. I'm one of these days can get my own podcast going. I might have you on there.
Hey, listen, done deal. The invitation's always open. Thanks again, buddy.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
And day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, and I'll tell you what, it is Super Sunday and the Super Bowl weekend. Many of you will be having parties. I would suggest something that goes great with the biggest game of the year is Winnipeg's favorite local beer. And the gang over at Little Brown Jug has a big-time sale that runs up until the end of business on Saturday. 24 tall boys of generic and 24 1919s for $117.12. That's a $55 savings. So if you are stocking up for the big game, head on down to Little Brown Jug and get the LBJ Party Pack with a 2-4 of 1919 and a 2-4 of generic for $117 up until tomorrow. It's available only at the LBJ Tap Room at 336 William Avenue. Nothing goes better with the biggest game of the year than an ice-cold Little Brown Jug. Jump on that deal before the end of business tomorrow, folks, for the LBJ Party Pack. Speaking of the big game, if you are planning on heading out to watch the game, why not make a rezo at your local Boston Pizza? Of course, BP has been the home of NFL football all year long, sending a couple winners out to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend as well, and won that trip at the conference championship game a couple weeks ago. But for those of us here that maybe don't want to do the entertaining, get on down to BP, enjoy some ice-cold schooners, those world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. Of course, great prizes when you watch the NFL at Boston Pizza. And tonight, if you're not lucky enough to be with us or have a ticket for the game, of course, pick a player contest for every Jet game live at Boston Pizza. And this is your last chance to do it for the next 2 weeks while we break for the Four Nations. Obviously, Four Nations will be hopping at BP as well. If you are staying at home, you can always get the great taste of Boston Pizza for your Super Bowl party or to watch the game tonight by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Oh, and speaking of the Four Nations, I got a text from our friend Greg Hasbeek over at Royal Sports. And I cannot wait to get down to Royal to pick up my Canada Morrissey jersey. They've got the Canadian jerseys, USA jerseys, Sweden and Finland. They're all phenomenal. This might be the best looking uniform tournament I think maybe we've ever seen. All 4 of them are absolute 10s. But for you Jet fans that want to grab a Kyle Connor or a Connor Hellebuck or a Josh Morrissey, get down there ASAP while supplies last to Royal Sports at 750 Pembina Highway. Of course, Royal Sports is the sports superstore. Lots of Super Bowl merch coming in as well. And, of course, everything else you've been known to enjoy from Royal, the best in licensed merchandise from all the big leagues, the biggest hockey store in town, and tons of cool stuff on the King Skate, Snow, and Surf side. Check them out on Instagram and give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right. This is going to be a bit of a longer show today, I guess, because Hacksaw is coming up in a few minutes to give us his thoughts on the Super Bowl. Right now, though, let's head down to New Orleans and welcome in TSN's Davis Sanchez to break down the big game. Ches, there's nothing like Super Bowl week, especially in a place like New Orleans. How's the week been treating you?
Lots of fried food. You forget, you hear about the good food, but you forget how much of it's fried. But it's been good. Yeah, at this age, I balance it. I still like to have fun because I've always been one that likes to get out and have a little bit of fun. But now I balance it, so it's been good though. Yeah.
You've been hitting the fish. There's some beignets.
Yeah, crushing the beignets in the morning. Little beignets and coffee in the morning. A lot of fish, a lot of gumbo, jambalaya. Yeah, it's kind of been rinse and repeat, to be honest. I tried the crawfish last night, and the flavor was legit. It was like, she asked me if I like spice. I said yes, and it had the little flavor to it, but I'm not big on the guts and the nasty stuff inside, so I ended up not eating much of that, and I went back to some crab, which is more in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, the crawfish, there's a lot of work involved in that stuff. It's you're busy when you're eating that. I'm sure the entire TSN team's been busy. What has the vibe been like? I mean, listen, New Orleans is a place I famously say, if you can't have fun in New Orleans, you better check your pulse. But this is Super Bowl week, and it's always something special. People fire up in the city, and I imagine you're seeing more and more Eagles and Chiefs fans as we get closer to the weekend.
Yeah, it's funny. There's been a few right next to the Chiefs hotel. We're just two doors down from the Chiefs, so we're seeing quite a bit of that. But there's folks are starting to trickle in now. It's really been kind of last night and today. We've been here since Sunday, so we've been here for a while. But last night and today, starting to see a lot more, and it's getting lively. I don't want any parts of Bourbon Street on Saturday night or Sunday after the game. I'm not going anywhere near there. I've been here. I was here the last one. I think you were probably here too. But in 13, it was just, it's bumper to bumper, and it's just, I want no parts of it.
Bumper to bumper. I still can't get over that they had a foot of snow 2 weeks ago in that city. I was imagining if that had happened during Super Bowl week, it would have been one of the craziest scenes of all time. But it's back to normal, and they're getting ready to welcome. Well, speaking of back to normal, the Chiefs are back in the game, and they're doing it against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is maybe not the matchup that the general public wanted. They were looking maybe for something a little new, but hard to argue that we're not getting two of the best teams in professional football going at it for the Lombardi on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I see you with your hoodie on there. It's we know where your alliance is. We've always known your alliance, but I don't know if look, it's this whole tale. Everyone's kind of saying the same story. It's the Eagles are a much better team. You might not fully agree, but most people that we're talking to think the Eagles are a much better team. But you obviously have the greatness in Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and what they've been able to do in crucial spots. And it's not just the 17 games in a row, one-score games that they've won. That's insane. Yes, there's a tiny bit of luck there, but it's also, I said it today in our Sports Center hit. It's just having the ability in the biggest spots to either find the weak link on the other side or get the ball in your best player's hand, find a way to make a play. And I think, forget about the luck. I think that's more importantly what the Chiefs have been able to do, whether it's, Andy or Spags or Mahomes, just finding ways in the biggest spots to get the matchup they want and make the play they need to. So it's going to be good.
What's the argument that the Eagles are the better team? I mean, listen, I know they put up a 50-burger on a 30th ranked defense in the last game. I also remember that if the Rams didn't have a brain cramp and somehow forget to block Jalen Carter in the final minute of the game, they might have blown that game at home against the Rams. They certainly don't have the advantage at the quarterback position. We know what that's all about. But what is the argument for the Eagles? Because there are a lot of people that say, well, on paper, this is a better team than the Kansas City Chiefs.
You just said it. You just said that they have the advantage at quarterback. Well, where else do they have the advantage?
Well, I put it this way. I wouldn't say that they've got a massive advantage in a lot of other areas. I think the Chiefs' defense is criminally underrated. I will give, we all talk about Jalen Carter. Anyone remember Chris Jones? He seems to show up on George Karlaftis looked pretty damn good in the playoffs so far. He's going for his third ring. Trent McDuffie's a first-team All-Pro. I mean, it just seems like, I don't know whether it is just Chiefs fatigue or whatever, but it seems like people are sort of forgetting what this team has done. And let's not forget the fact that they lost one meaningful game all season.
Yeah, look, it's greatness. So agree. Let's not forget about greatness. Our job, all of us at this point, and especially look, we're breaking down this game, and it's been for 2 weeks now, and these teams now for over a month in depth. So we're nitpicking and we're finding. But if I go unit for unit, I'm saying Eagles have a better D-line. Secondary is a toss-up. I think you could argue the secondaries either way. They're both pretty good. But statistically, I mean, the Eagles are a better defense. Just and offensively, we know what's going on there. Of the offensive line is maybe the best in the NFL, if not the top three with the Eagles, and then you got Saquon. So I think they're better when I go position for position, unit for unit. I think they're better. But to your point, it's not like the Chiefs are a bottom half team with a great quarterback and a great coach. They're a top third team with maybe the best quarterback of all time and one of the best coaches of all time. So yes, that's the reason why, if everyone believes the Eagles are better, unit for unit, how come the line's not moving and it's sitting there, near a pick 'em now? It's because people understand that the Chiefs are excellent and they're well coached and have the pedigree.
We talk a lot about experience for the Chiefs. They've been there, they've done that, they've found ways to win. But Philly's an experienced team as well, and they were just here 2 years ago against this same team. How do you think that experience for Philadelphia might help them, try to get over the mountain against a team that they fell up short against 24 months ago?
Yeah, what really might help is the guy who's kind of, people think he's the weak link of this team right now, which is crazy, but it's Jalen Hurts. And you rewind back to 2022 in that Super Bowl against this, the same team and a lot of the same people, some of the same people at least. Jalen Hurts might have been the best player on the field. I mean, other than take away the last 6 minutes and Patrick Mahomes and doing what they do, Jalen Hurts was incredible. Now,
it was one fumble, really. I mean, I honestly think that if he doesn't make that fumble, the Chiefs aren't in a position to come back and win.
Yes, I mean they're up 10 at halftime. They went score for score with the Chiefs the whole game. I mean, it was that without the PI, they're also going to get a shot. If there's no PI there at the end, they're also going to get a shot down 3 with the ball to go down and tie it again. But anyway, point being is Jalen Hurts was outstanding in that game, and Jalen has been. And not only, here's the thing I think folks forget. Not only was Jalen good at using his legs, and he scored 3 touchdowns on the ground and tush push and all that BS, but he was also great in the passing game. I mean, he was aggressive. He was on target. He was on point and making all the right reads. Like I said, aggressive. For me, I think that the addition of Saquon, my bad. That's the alarm to join you. The addition of Saquon Barkley is probably added to a little bit of help, a little bit of regression for Jalen. It shouldn't be, because this is a way better Eagles team now with Saquon, but it's also kind of handcuffed Jalen Hurts, and I think he's lost some confidence because now they're saying, hey, don't lose the game for us because, we have a great defense and the best running back in the game and this old line. Don't lose it for us. Just take care of the ball. And so that's taken away some of the freedom and some of the aggressiveness that you see from Jalen.
I'm really interested to see how Philly handles the early parts of the game, because listen, Barkley's been so good, and if he's running all over the place, it really is going to help your lot in life. But it's hard to imagine they're going to win with Jalen Hurts just being pedestrian. You don't beat Mahomes, you don't beat the Chiefs without having a real strong quarterback performance. So how do they get that passing game going on earlier? And do you think they'll lean on him earlier than maybe some people expect to get A.J. Brown, to get Devontae Smith in, and truly be an offense that threatens KC on both the ground and in the air?
You think that's a popular opinion and method to get a quarterback who's been struggling, get him going early. Maybe it's some no huddle, maybe it's just some ways to kind of get Jalen Hurts some confidence. But I don't think so. I think they stick to what they do. I think they stick the ball in the gut of Saquon 35 times if they can, and go from there, and then make make the Chiefs stop them and adjust however they need to off of that. I can, I see what you're saying, and maybe trying to find ways to be aggressive and use a likely Chiefs defense that adds that eighth man in the box and forces them to throw the ball. But I think here's a stat I found on PFF, offered this stat up, but it was really good. But in the playoffs right now, Saquon Barkley versus 8-man box. So adding that safety down into the box, he's averaging in the playoffs over 7 yards a carry. Versus 6-man box, he's averaging 4.5 yards a carry. So, I mean, light boxes, he's only getting 4 yards a carry. When they're stacking, he's getting 7. You ask why? It's because you have everyone down the line of scrimmage. And when Saquon, yes, you may stuff him, but when he busts it, he's going to bust a 50 or 60 yarder. And that's the risk you take with the one-level defense of stacking the box. So it's not that easy just to stack the box.
This is not the first time that we've said this, but to me, maybe the most intriguing individual going into this game is Steve Spagnuolo. And Spags, the way that he has game planned for teams, the way that he's changed things up during the game. I remember in the Houston game, the second half when Houston all of a sudden had some offensive steam, the next thing you know, C.J. Stroud was getting sacked every second game. Challenging that Eagles run game, trying to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands and not getting burned is going to be a big, big part of it. But the one thing that Hurts has not excelled in this year, far from it, is throwing the ball under pressure. You mentioned the offensive line of the Eagles. Could this really boil down from a Philly offense to KC defense perspective on Jones and Karlaftis and those guys being able to get into the backfield? Listen, if Barkley runs for 200 yards, you're not winning the football game. So you have to limit that run game. But the ability to put the pressure on Jalen Hurts, force him as he does so often just to throw the ball away or potentially put it into danger?
What do you think the best path? You watch this Chiefs team a lot. What do you think the best method is for them to guard this Eagles offense?
Well, listen, I think first things first, you have to handle Barkley. I think that goes without saying. Now, I will say this, and I don't want to take anything away from Barkley. He's on the verge of having a historic season. I think he needs, 40 yards for the most combined regular season and playoff yards. If you dig in a little bit, 10 of those games were against bottom 10 defenses. And in those games, he has almost 1,600 yards. Like against non-top 10 defenses, he's averaging high 80s or around 90 yards a game. So, if you can keep Barkley to that, I think that, the Chiefs will give themselves a good chance to win. For me, though, outside of that, because that is job 1A, it's the ability to get into the backfield, to not give Jalen Hurts a lot of time to see all of his reads, to maybe force him to try to, make a pass into an area that, frankly, maybe shouldn't be done, which he's very good at not doing, usually making those mistakes. But it is the Super Bowl, and you're going to need to make some big plays to win. And, I think that to me, they have to be able to make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable, to make him run around and not allow him to run the ball as effective as Barkley.
So so now that's the other side of this is if you do pressure Jalen, now you're going to have one-on-one outside with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Now, Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie are one of the better tandems in the league of cornerbacks. They're aggressive. They play during the playoffs. They played those two guys, McDuffie and Watson, have played more press man than any duo in the league. They're actually number 1 and number 2. McDuffie plays the most press man, and Watson plays the second most press man, over 50% of the time. So you're going to get, again, I like that matchup. I like those two corners, and I'm a corner. I love those guys' games. But in the NFL, the way that the rules are now, I'll take any good receiver, number 1 and number 2 receiver against a number 1 or number 2 corner. I'll take the receiver in the matchup if I get one-on-one all day long, because just the rules are so lean for the offense. And now you're going to have those two guys one-on-one with AJ or Devontae down the field, and that's what the Chiefs are going to give up. So I don't think that Spags is aggressive. I think he'd probably rather play some zone stuff and pressure on some of the 5-man pressures versus just playing man, because I don't think you want to give Jalen Hurts easy reads one-on-one down the field with a 6'4", 240-pound AJ Brown. Let him win jump balls, and it's too easy.
Hey, Ches, let me flip it on the other side, and talk to us about the challenge for the Philly defense. We know Mahomes can come up. I mean, I'm not sure there's a more clutch player in any sport. When the game's on the line, he's there. But this is 60 minutes. They have a knack for throwing the football more than any team behind the line of scrimmage, and it often comes down to creative play design from Andy Reid, identifying areas that they can get 5 and 6 yards. This isn't the Chiefs of 2019 that were, airing it out for 60 and 70 yards of play. What's the best operation for Philly to, basically try and get the Chiefs offense off the field?
Yeah, it's interesting. I pulled a clip I had in my notes from earlier. It was from week 1 before the Chiefs' first game. And it was Mahomes talking about the style of offense that he wants to play this year. And he said, I'll paraphrase it here, but basically he said that the last couple of years I've been throwing a lot of stuff short, underneath, check down. That's kind of been the offense we played. This year, I want to really get the ball down the field and be aggressive. And that's kind of the evolution of what I'm looking for this season. Well, it's been nothing but, like you said, they throw the ball. I think it's 30%. Actually, I know. It's 30% of the time this year, the ball's either at the line of scrimmage, their passes are either at line of scrimmage or behind line of scrimmage. 30% of the time, they're not going down the field at all. And this is Patrick Mahomes, who has maybe the biggest arm in the league. This is another thing that I think folks don't realize. I was talking to Devin McCourty, a former Patriots safety, and I was talking about Josh Allen's big arm. And I said, well, Josh's big arm, like, how do you protect and how does it change your zones when you're going up against someone with a big arm like Josh? And Devin stopped me in mid-sentence. This is last year, down at 2 years ago, actually, down at training camp. He stopped me and said, well, hold on. Patrick Mahomes is really the one that I'm worried about. Josh has a great arm, but so does Patrick, and people don't realize that. I was like, well, you look at Josh just because his size and you think how big his arm is, but Patrick has the same thing. So think about how great he is, the weapons he has, the coordinator he has, or the play callers he has, and the fact that he's not getting the ball. They're one of the worst teams in the league at throwing the ball down the field. It's mind-blowing. Anyway, the Eagles take that away. The Eagles are going to take away the deep stuff. That's what they do. They give up fewer big plays than anybody in the league. They're going to force Patrick Mahomes to check the ball down. So it's the key for me is going to be can Hollywood, can Xavier, and maybe even Juju to an extent catch those little 4 and 5 yard underneath routes that they're offering and find a crease and hit that and get some big gains, because that's the way I think they get big plays is by catching those quick ones between behind the short coverage and in front of the safeties, and then hitting it and getting some yards that way.
Just
Eagles aren't giving it up.
Just quickly on that, DeAndre Hopkins has been a non-factor through the playoffs so far. And often we'll see guys that have very quiet games for Kansas City pop the next game. Is he just kind of a shadow of what he used to be right now, not able to help them, or is this a matter of getting Hollywood Brown back? I mean, they really had a pretty skeleton staff at receiver for most of the year before getting some guys back.
Yeah, D-Hop's poor. I mean, it's now. It was always going to be Xavier then Hollywood when they're healthy, and then D-Hop. I thought when they were all healthy, D-Hop would slide to 3, but he's actually Juju Smith-Schuster's now taking a snap share away from D-Hop. D-Hop had like 18 snaps or something last game, so he's now become the 4th receiver. I mean, his prop number is like, it's like
11 and a half.
11 yards, yeah. I mean, he's not, yeah. So Juju Smith-Schuster actually is one of my best bets of the week is Juju Smith-Schuster over 1.5 receptions. I absolutely love that. I think that, like what I just said about the Eagles and how the style that they're playing and taking everything away and giving away the underneath. How is the guy that works exclusively in the slot, only going to throw the ball 40 times? How is their number one slot target or their third receiver who works the slot the most not going to have 2 catches. I mean, that's an absolute slam dunk for me. I told my wife that we were putting it all in, so we're all in on that one.
I mean, you've been killing the props all year long on TSN, one of my favorite segments. Anything else that you're already in on for Sunday?
Yeah, that's my favorite. There's also a special on FanDuel that we like. That was it was Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdowns, but 2 touchdowns anyway. And it's actually in my best bet segment this week, but it's 2 touchdowns anyway. So not an anytime touchdown, but he got to throw it, run it anyway. -170. That to me is a really good number. There's no way that Jalen Hurts is not a part of 2 touchdowns, some form, whether it's 2 tush pushes or a quick pass, whatever it might be. I think he scores twice. That was the one I saw. So those were my 2 best bets: Juju and that 2 touchdowns per.
Davis Sanchez with us, part of the TSN team down at Super Bowl in New Orleans. Ches, I know Sunday it all culminates. It's the big day. When are we going to see you on the tube?
Yeah, we got lots going. So pregame, we're doing pregame hits down there from the field, and then I'll be doing a live Super Bowl halftime show. I don't know what people are more excited to see, me live at halftime of the Super Bowl or Kendrick Lamar. I think that should be a prop bet because I'm pretty sure it's probably a 50-50 there. Who people want to see more.
I'll take the even money on Davis Sanchez, considering how well you were delivering winners at halftime all season long. We got to pay the bills somehow, right?
I appreciate it. So yeah, that's we're excited. It's, you know what? It's a blessing. It's a blessing, and feel pretty fortunate to get to do this and be down here with the team. And so it's gonna be fun. I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl as much as I look forward to it.
Hell of a matchup. We could be seeing history, or could be seeing Philly get back on top of the National Football League. Sunday, big day on TSN and CTV. Thanks so much for doing this, pal. Have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll see you in person 12 months from now.
Appreciate it.
All right, great stuff with Ches. Looking forward to the broadcast on Sunday. Marbles registration is open. You know what to do, folks. ! Marbles. We're going to chop it up with Hacksaw for a few minutes. We'll get to the Coolbet lines. And then Remis has found a very, very cool track for today's race. But it's Super Sunday. Let's welcome in Lee Hacksaw Hamilton to get ready for the big game. Lee, great to see you as always. We've got a rematch of the Super Bowl 2 years ago from the Eagles and the Chiefs, looking for history. I guess we can't be too surprised that the Washington Commanders didn't make it, but do you think maybe this was the year that the Bills were going to finally beat the final boss and get to the big game?
Well, nice to chat with you, Hustler. Yes, it is Beer Friday going towards Super Bowl Sunday. In all honesty, I think they're surprises, but there's a short galaxy of really good franchises that we watched all season long, talked about every Friday on the Notebook segment. Obviously, Buffalo's really good with the MVP quarterback, Josh Allen, but Buffalo quite does not have the playmakers around Josh Allen yet, at least not equal to the playmakers that, say, Kansas City has, or the playmakers, obviously, that Detroit has. So Buffalo's still got work to be done there across the lake to maybe be a Super Bowl team. They're close, but they're not there yet. Detroit, it's got to make them ache that they're not there, but that's a byproduct of just losing virtually their entire defense. And by the time they got to the finish line in that last playoff game, Andrew, they were playing guys off the developmental squad whom they had signed just a couple of weeks prior. That's how badly they were battered. And yet Jared Goff did a hell of a job carrying them, and St. Brown did a phenomenal job, and Gibbs had just a breakout season. So Detroit will be back next season because they got all the components. They just need some lady luck on their side. Washington, that kid took them a long, long way, but it did catch up with them, and they wound up giving up 55 points, and the roof caved in. San Francisco has been a really good program for a long time, but injuries just ravaged them. And I think the one that's really got this albatross around their neck is Baltimore. Lamar Jackson has just yet to prove in postseason games that he can execute it without making mistakes. And his touchdown turnover ratio in postseason games is really bad. And I thought Baltimore was built for this because Baltimore, for the first time ever in Lamar Jackson's career, Andrew, they put good people around him. That running back, those tight ends, those wide receivers, and I had to face the weatherman and Lamar Jackson turn the football over. But flipping back to the original statement, Kansas City has earned this. Philadelphia has earned this. I think it's going to be a great game.
Hey, you know what? Just you mentioned Lamar and Josh Allen, and it really did seem like the MVP voting was down to those two players. And listen, Lamar's stats on paper were better than Josh Allen's. Josh Allen won more football games, and I think we'd have to look at, you know, the Ravens just with the talent and adding Derrick Henry and what they had around him maybe played into Josh. But were you surprised at all that Allen, despite not having the numbers of Lamar Jackson, won his first MVP last night?
I really was. And that's take nothing away from the greatness of what Josh Allen has become since he left the University of Wyoming. Leader, quality guy, mistake-free football. He's grown as a student of the game. Lamar has grown a great deal too. The only adjective, or maybe it's an adverb, you'll have to decide. The only adverb I could use to describe Lamar Jackson is just staggering. The statistics he puts up throwing and running, and now his touchdown to turnover ratio, it's just been spectacular in the season. But he's still got this thing about postseason games. I think he's 3-5 in postseason now. And his TD turnover ratio has still got a negative attached to it. So there's something there that's not right. Baltimore had a very young defense. They got progressively better as the season wore on, but you can't turn the football over to the amount that Baltimore did in that playoff game. So, yeah, I was a little surprised Josh Allen got it because I thought Lamar Jackson's numbers were just phenomenal.
You know, Kevin O'Connell cashed a ticket for us as the coach of the year, which was nice to see. I thought Sam Darnold might be able to snag that comeback player of the year, but they kind of are going back to injuries for comebacks, and that's why Joe Burrow won, despite the fact that he had all the numbers, so did Jamar Chase. They just didn't win enough football games and weren't even part of the playoffs in the AFC. And, of course, Jaden Daniels' runaway win in the Offensive Rookie of the Year. So just about everything is done. We'll get the Walter Payton Man of the Year before kickoff on Sunday. And then it's time to see whether the Chiefs can make history with the first ever three-peat in the Super Bowl era, or whether the Eagles can get one back after losing 2 years ago. And before we get a pick from you, Hacksaw, give me your angles on this game and the most intriguing matchups and storylines when it comes to Chiefs, Eagles on Sunday in New Orleans.
Well, there's a lot of different angles here. Let me just run stuff off the top of my head to your fans who are in Canada. Let's be honest, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, they're mad scientists. I guarantee you, if you study formations, you watch some segments of this game, Andy Reid is going to hit Philadelphia with stuff they've never, ever seen on video before. And then the question is, whether it's motion, whether it's unique guys lining up with Mahomes in the backfield, all types of strange things that will try to slow down everything Philadelphia does defensively. Now, Nick Sirianni comes to the line of scrimmage, and the Mean Green just stands up, say, we're coming after the quarterback. What the hell are you going to do about it? And he's got a really good football team, too. So the chess match of Andy Reid and Spagnuolo and what they're going to try to do against Philadelphia's quarterback and Philadelphia's defense, that's going to be fun watching. Everybody's got playmakers. I mean, the stars on these two rosters, just absolutely spectacular. Not just Mahomes and Travis Kelce, not just Saquon Barkley, but there's so many different contributors. So this is going to be fun because these guys are in a different galaxy system themselves in terms of accomplishments and making things happen on the field. Here's the premise that I have going into the game, because there's a lot of storylines here. You got Mahomes and all of his experience. He's 17-3 in postseason. Just think about that stat. If you're a 500 team in postseason, if your coach has got a 500 record, you've accomplished a lot. This guy is 17-3 in postseason games, and Andy Reid is 28-16 as head coach in the most important time of the season. So Kansas City's got all the experience, plus having won 17 games in crunch time over the last year and a half. The flip side, Philadelphia doesn't give a crap. They're just going to beat your brains out. Philadelphia, they got 7 blowout wins this season en route to the schedule they've had, and they've won 15 of their last 16 games. They're just really big and they're really physical. And there'll be matchups to pay attention to. Like, I think Kansas City's offensive front's going to have its hands full. I don't know how you slow down Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith. I think Mahomes is going to be running for his life only because those guys up front wearing green just crush people coming off the football. The flip side of that, Philadelphia comes to the line of scrimmage, and they're going to run Saquon, and they may run Hurts, and then they'll throw. How is Kansas City and Chris Jones going to be able to hold up going against the best offensive line in probably modern-day NFL football? The secondaries of both these teams are really gifted, really athletic. They're not afraid to leave their guys out on coverage. The big question for Philadelphia, they got some young guys in the secondary, and that's Kelsey coming off the line of scrimmage, making things happen, etc., with a whole collection of cross-sectional veteran wide receivers. So those kids are going to be challenged a little bit in single coverage. But the flip side, that defensive front is chasing Mahomes all over the place. Mahomes is not going to have a lot of time to find Travis Kelsey and all that. So the matchups, skill guys versus secondary guys, is definitely worth watching. And obviously the special teams guys, Harrison Butker's a great kicker. Doesn't matter what, in season, out of season, whatever. And Jake Elliott's done well, but he hadn't done it to the dimension of what Harrison Butker's going to do. So we break this sucker down. I give the quarterback edge to Kansas City. I give the running back edge to Philadelphia. I give the offensive line edge to the Eagles. I give the defensive front edge to Philadelphia. I give the secondary edge to Philadelphia. And then obviously the kicking game, I think, goes to Kansas City. Andy Reid, mad scientist. Sirianni doesn't care about that. We're going to punch you in the mouth and see how you do once you taste your own blood. I think it'd be a hell of a game, and I just think the chess match, it's just going to be amazing. I'm sorry, Hustler, you asked this question. I just gave you my answer.
Hey, I love it. I mean, it is it's just one of the great matchups we've had in a long time, and I know a lot of people wanted to see maybe a different team. There's a lot of people that are tired of the Chiefs, but I think at a certain point, even if you're a fan of one of the other teams, you do have to step back and go, it is truly incredible what this team has accomplished and what they're on the verge of doing if they can win. I mean, it's a 1-point spread, basically a pick'em, Lee. It's on a neutral field. It's going to be a great turf, unlike the sort of slippery conditions they had to deal with a couple years ago. Where are you at right now? Does Andy Reid etch himself and his team in history forevermore, or does the NFC get one back on the Chiefs after a run on the table the last 2 seasons?
Well, the chess match will be fun because Andy Reid's had 2 weeks to prepare for this, and I guarantee you, I broadcast Super Bowls, and I saw firsthand of the greatness of the 49ers when they came to the line of scrimmage. And I did the 49er Charger Super Bowl game on the network, and San Francisco hit them with 6 formations in the first 6 plays that the Chargers had never, ever seen on video. 6 plays, 2 touchdown passes, 14-0 San Francisco early first quarter. Thank you, Steve Young, 6 TD passes. Game over. I'll grant you 2 weeks to prepare. Reid is going to spring some stuff on Philadelphia that's really going to cause them some problems. Now, whether they can continue to do that remains to be seen. Can Kansas City hold up to the physicality? In all honesty, Philadelphia is going to make this a 60-minute bar fight. That's what I think this game's going to turn into. Fascinating to see if there's a lot of turnovers because everybody's going to be tackling the football. But it's a great matchup. I mean, we got great coaches. Obviously, we got superstars on both rosters, and then we got the physicality of the offensive and defensive lines. It's going to be a great game. And at the end of the day, you'll be buying me Philly cheesesteaks when this thing is over with my 1919 cold beer in a frosted glass.
Oh, Lee, geez, you know what? You still haven't learned the last few years, just like everyone. It is funny to see the support for the Eagles everywhere outside Missouri. But honestly, for a game like this that is so close, that is basically a pick'em, people are going to basically pick who they want to win. And you can make a great argument for both teams, and we're going to find out on Sunday who is the champions, and we'll be holding that Lombardi trophy. It is going to be a spectacle.
Yeah, I'll just add this into the equation. I don't buy in anything that everybody's tired of Kansas City Chief football. You know, they've been playing, quote, Super Bowls since 1967. Nobody's ever done this. Nobody's won 3 in a row. Now, granted, we've had the back-to-back winners. You know, Green Bay under the Lombardi era, and the Steelers did it twice. The Cowboys have done it, etc. The 49ers have done it. But nobody's done 3. So appreciate the accomplishment because you just don't know how hard it is to get back there a second time and then to do it a third time in the wake of injuries and free agency and age and retirement. I mean, what Kansas City has done. And the unsung heroes in this whole equation, not one person I know has spoken about the job Brett Veach has done, roster building in Kansas City. Nobody has given Howie Roseman accolades for what they've done. I went back and did a breakdown of these two rosters for my podcast here in the States, and Philadelphia has got 15 of their top 22 starters are their own draft picks. 15. Kansas City's got 14 of their own guys that are starting. So, I mean, what those front offices behind the curtain have done, absolutely amazing. So this is amazing. And I've said all along, you've heard me talk about Kansas City's best football was still in front of them because they had all the injuries, and we were talking about, well, this is the most unimpressive 12-1 team I've ever seen, and well, their best football is now because they're pretty doggone healthy. Of course, they're going to need to have their best football now because here come these guys wearing mean green colors, and they're pretty tough too. You know, it's funny that you mentioned just how these teams have been built. You're exactly right. I mean, I'll give a ton of credit to Howie Roseman. I mean, you wonder how good and how dominant Philly would be if they could draft receivers like they do every other position. I mean, they famously took Jalen Reagor and left Justin Jefferson on the board for the Vikings. And they had to go and trade a top pick to get A.J. Brown, but it's worked out pretty well. And as they say, it's just a great matchup, going to be a great one. Hey, Hacksaw, before we go, everyone knows that you're not just an NFL savant, but covering all of the world of sports every day at LeeHacksawHamilton.com and on the podcast. I've already seen a couple of comments of people that saw you yesterday. I see you got introduced to our old buddy Ryan Hartman from the Minnesota Wild. What an obscene play. And like, we're not surprised here. This guy's been fined and suspended numerous times. I sticked our own Corporal Fetty in the face last year and only got a fine, which we were all hot about on this show for a while. But 10 games, it seems like the NHL sort of wisened up to one of the true rodents in professional hockey. Well, you carry clout north of the border. I think you need to be raising holy hell with Gary Bettman and what his vice presidents of discipline have allowed the league to become. I've seen so many brutal fights this year, so many open ice hits, so much disregard for player safety. It's like I get a gold star if I put the other guy out and I injure him if I imperil his career. That's not what the NHL should be all about. And what that guy in Minnesota just did to Tim Stutzel in Ottawa is an absolute egregious disgrace. He could have broken that guy's neck. And then what would he think? And what would the league say? What the league needs to do is take a firmer stand against, quote, repeat offenders. 5-game suspension becomes 10, becomes 20, becomes 40. Next time Hartman's involved in an incident, he should be gone for the season because he's created just some egregious hits that have endangered so many players. And he's not the only one. It just seems to be an epidemic. And I just can't buy Gary Bettman's theory that fighting is part of the NHL. Not in the world of CTE and concussions and, quote, player suicides. And don't tell me that's not all linked together, because I come from the NFL street corner and I see it with friends and guys that I help right now who know they're going to die of CTE, legendary Charger players. So the league, and again, I think the Canadian media needs to be stronger and tougher on Bettman and his vice presidents of discipline. It's a great game. Make the game safer. And if you have to take the hoods and the thugs out, so be it. That's the price they pay for the injury they inflict on guys. Because I was appalled when I saw what happened in the Minnesota-Ottawa game. Well, Lee, we'll look forward to talking to you about the Four Nations next week as Jets play their final game tonight. Looking to be the first team in the NHL to crack the 80-point barrier in first place overall. And then we move on to Canada, USA, Sweden, and Finland next week in Montreal, and then the following week in Boston. I know you did an extensive Super Bowl preview and breakdown on the YouTube show yesterday. Fill people in on that and what's coming up as we head into the big game at LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Well, we do a lot of different things. The podcast is just exploding, and I drove my producer crazy because I create all the graphics. Get a chance, Winnipeg, get a chance in the Old Canada Network. Punch up my podcast when you're done watching Hustler today, because the fun on my podcast, we used all types of graphics and studies, research about storylines going to Super Bowl Sunday. It's really different. So podcast is up there permanently. We do Mondays and Thursdays. Website is all written. I cover an absolute ton. Best 15 minutes in sports, one man's opinion, Hacksaw's many polls. You can check that out on a day in, day out basis every morning. And Hustler, you're allowed to steal the stuff that I write about and put it on your show as if it's yours. I grant you permission to be bright.
First place I go every day. I'm not dumb, Lee. I'm not dumb. You're cranking it out all night. I get up and it's there and ready to go. Sometimes I'm still up, actually, when you've actually put it out over on the West Coast. Hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy the game, and don't be surprised if we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and a special team doing something no team's ever done on Sunday night.
I want my 1919 with a frosted glass, and please, no onions when you deliver the Philly cheesesteak on Monday morning.
It'll be burnt ends, some brisket for my barbecue return on that one. Lee, thanks as always, buddy. Have a great one.
Happy have yourself a great sports weekend, Canada. To chat with you again. Thanks.
You got it. There is the man himself, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And make sure before the big game, get on over, give some love, leave a comment, and a thumbs up to Lee's episode of his Super Bowl preview. All right. We've got a marble race to get to. So last call. If you just popped in, you've got 30 seconds to put in exclamation mark marbles before we do it up. And while Remis gets that ready, I will head over to the Coolbet lines. Now, today in the lock shop, maybe our most fun episode ever. We did, for the big game, a Super Bowl prop draft. Myself, Dusty, Jake, and Pat. We all picked 6 props. We had to take 1 touchdown prop, 1 like rushing, receiving, or passing prop, 1 of the novelty props that has nothing to do with football, a long shot prop of 3-1 or more, and then 2 others. I would suggest, and I'll throw it in right now in the chat. Here is the link. If you want to jump on that afterwards, that's today's lock shop over at Edmonton Sports Talk. But subscribe to the podcast, give it a listen. Here's where I finished up with. Took a bit of a swing on the touchdown prop. Philly has notoriously not been good against tight ends. We saw Zach Ertz run wild on them in the Washington game. We know Travis Kelce is going to get a ton of attention. I like the other tight end from the Chiefs, Noah Gray, for an anytime touchdown. That is plus 500 at 5-1. Saquon Barkley has had an incredible season, but he has really padded his numbers against the bottom 10 defenses in the league. When he goes up against defenses between 1 and 20, of which the Chiefs are closer to the top than the bottom, those numbers go down to sort of 80-ish yards a game. So I'm taking the under 111.5 Barkley rushing yards. I got a good tip on the halftime from our guy Big Maple in the chat. And he was breaking down the Kendrick Lamar props for halftime. He did say, I know his 2 best friends who raps on some of his stuff are J-Rock and Schoolboy Q. Plus 225 for J-Rock, and he's the feature on the song Money Tree, which was a huge single off his first studio album. So I rode with J-Rock. I was thinking about the 5-1 on Schoolboy Q, but I went plus 225 on J-Rock. And again, these are all available at Coolbet right now. That would be in the halftime offerings. And you can also bet on the first song that Kendrick Lamar is going to sing, and that sort of thing. My long shot bet, and I love this one. Obviously, I'm pulling for the Chiefs. The first mention by the MVP after getting the award. God is minus 200. The teammates and the team is plus 180. But I'm taking the city/team at 14-1. Mahomes, after getting his award, will do something along the lines of, "We did it, Chiefs Kingdom," something like that before he answers the question. So I think the first mention will be city/fans. Huge number at 14-1. I'm on that. I've also taken Mahomes for MVP at plus 110 and over 0.5 sacks for George Karlaftis. So those were my 6 favorites. But check it out. I mean, Dusty, a couple of the other interesting ones. Dusty's got Kelce as the last touchdown scorer in the game at plus 700. Jake went with the DeAndre Hopkins anytime touchdown. We've talked about that the last couple of days. He's been invisible and a non-factor in these last couple playoff games. The Chiefs always zag when everyone thinks they're going to zig. Wouldn't be surprised. And his yardage total for the game is 11.5. Be surprised if he didn't hit that. And then Pat swung for the fences. Mahomes to rush the first touchdown of the game, 16-1. But we had a ton of fun with it today. Click on it, give it a like, check it out if you want to really dive into a whole bunch of prop options over at Coolbet. As far as the game itself goes, we had it for about 2 minutes 2 days ago on Wednesday. The game moved down to a real pick'em, -110 for the Chiefs, -108 for the Eagles. Very quickly, it went right back to where it was. The Chiefs to win, -118. Eagles to win is even money. The point spread is 1. Kansas City -1 at -110. Eagles +1 at -108. And the total has actually come down half a point. It was 49 earlier this week. It's now 48.5. As far as tonight goes in the National Hockey League, there are 5 games. The Penguins without Sidney Crosby or Sid are in New York to take on the Rangers. Rangers -208. We got the Preds at -192 on the road in Chicago against the Blackhawks. Avalanche Oilers should be a good one tonight. Oilers -182 favorites. And the Dallas Stars and LA Kings are going at it in California. Basically a pick 'em. Dallas the slightest of favorites, -111, and Kings -105. The Jets, for their part, -192 favorites tonight. Islanders +162. Dogs on the road, despite winning 8 of their last 9. Haven't looked. Maybe I'll do a last-minute WST parlay as well for this one. But Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, both +154 to score. And power play goals, maybe we'll just hit the power play goals in the game for both teams over 1.5 +145. It's all they're waiting for your Coolbet. There are hundreds of markets available for the big game. Check out today's lock shop for some ideas and some of our favorite props, or just go over to Coolbet. And of course, this is a perfect time to remind you, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, you can use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus, up to $200 on your first deposit. Good luck with your wagers, and don't sleep on the three-peat. All right, Remo, have you made a pick yet for this game? Where are you at for Sunday?
Super Bowl, hard to pick against the Chiefs, so I'm going Chiefs. More going for some props. What do you want? Like Samaje Perine over, 6 receiving yards? Huss had the big catch at the end of the game to seal it in the conference championship.
I like the receiving props of a bunch of the running backs. Like, I'm on the under on Barkley rushing. I do think they'll try and get him the ball in a few different ways. I think his receiving prop is up to 13.5 now. I still like the over. Kareem Hunt 6.5. I like the over. And yeah, if Perine gets a catch or two, he'll get over 7.5. He really didn't even get into the game until the play they needed for that first down to win the game. So, but I do think Kareem Hunt is going to be the feature back for this game. Wouldn't be surprised if he got in as well. I think he's +120 to score.
Yes, we'll see how it goes. As I did enjoy the whole whack of Taylor Swift related props as well. So it's wild this time of year. The anthem over under. Exciting time, but we are excited for WST night at the Jets and this marble race test. Man, I haven't seen this many entries in a while. Big shows this week. It's very, the Jets on this win streak combined with the trade deadline, them being in first place. It's been a very good time at Winnipeg Sports Talk for viewership. Yes, we had some shows this week, over 500 people. We've had over 400 this entire time and almost 300 in the marble race.
Yeah, gotta love it. Looking forward to seeing everybody tonight at the game, and great to see you. Maybe some people that hadn't been regular around joining us live on YouTube. Podcast numbers have been great. But hit that thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you are subscribed. All right, we're going to get ready to do this marble race. Hey, special shout out to my guy, Dr. Terry, over at St. Vital Dental. Got me in early in the morning today, so I had no freezing by the time we got down to business. Looking forward to having them on board with us moving forward. But I have a feeling if you're smart and you need to go get some great dental work, you go there, try and make an appointment at about 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon, and you can sit back in the chair and they'll throw the marble race up on it because Dr. Terry and the crew there, big fans of WST and the marble race. Also probably fans of Tristan Rivers' music because Tristan is the guy that officially starts the marble race. So let's get to a little TRM and then let's get to marbles to kick off Super Bowl weekend on WST.
It's Friday!
Banging track rumors abound. I'm looking forward to that. And again, should be a great one tonight. See if we can go 5-0 in Section 316 as a WST group. Oh, by the way, and Remo, while you get the marbles ready, I will just mention I did check in. If you're planning on joining early today, go to the main Portage and Donald doors. Everyone, I know there was a couple people that had a difficulty with their drink voucher last time. You have to have your Ticketmaster account linked to your Jets 360 app, but they checked and everyone should have their voucher in the account with the exception of our pal Les, and Les knows the routine for that. They know him, they know you, and they'll be ready to get that voucher for it. So we'll see you tonight. And again, if you are coming early, we'll be on the north side because I think there's something in the 316 bar. But if you're coming later on, closer to game time, just head around the section. I'm sure we'll be in and around the hangar bar where we're normally at in between periods. And if you have tickets for the game, not in our section, definitely pop up and say hi in between the first and second or the second and third. We'll be hanging in around the hangar bar just outside section 316 in the upper bowl. Have you figured out your attire for tonight, Reem?
I got a couple jerseys I should wear. It is Heritage night, so maybe I'll throw a Heritage hat on. We'll have to see. It's fun going up, seeing all the jerseys. I know someone tweeted us a picture of a Carson Kuhlman jersey. Speaking of trade deadline acquisitions.
That's a one of one.
I thought I did pretty well spotting a Keaton Ellerby out there, but Carson Kuhlman, that's up there for the power rankings of obscure Jets jersey. So, tweet us if you ever spot anything cool like that on the concourse.
Yeah. By the way, if you are coming tonight with our WST group and you don't see the voucher, you might want to just go to the box office right when you come in. Because if it's not in or there's an issue with your being ticked up, I think they checked and everything should be there. If it's not, Heather, the great staff there at the main box office, can help you out with that, or fan services, but you'd probably be best off just getting it taken care of before you even head upstairs and look to redeem it. All right, Remis, tell us about this course.
All right, Mikey McBikeface takes credit for the tweet of Carson Kuhlman. Well, I'm going to put in Eric Comrie, right?
Yeah, put in me, all caps, and definitely Eric Comrie for visiting us today and for his shutout and his great play on this weekend.
Sure, done deal. Sec. We will load in the marbles. And so I went to a track, and I guess this is new. I don't remember them having this. You can see how many times each track has been played. So I was like, well, if people are playing a certain track a lot of times, it must be a good one, right? So the track I picked is called Pretty Crazy Bakery. It has a good finish with
Bakery.
I think it's a cookie. It has a good finish with a hamster ball into like a launch into a ramp. And I think you have to go through a circle. Now, there was a couple weeks ago where, who was it who almost won?
Ross.
Was it Ross who was like about to win and he missed the game-winning basket, basically? We'll see how it goes.
All right, so here we go. We're hitting the bakery today. Brand new track, very popular track in the world of marbles on Steam. Again, if you win today's marble race, you'll get a WST hoodie for our marbles champions. Shout out to the great people over at Shipham and Associates for helping us out with the hoodies. Great spot for all your promotional product needs if you have any. And massive funnel. And it does look like a big chocolate chip cookie. Right on.
Yeah, double chunk chocolate cookie.
All right. Well, yes, the double chunk chocolate cookies here. Wow, 300 marbles. Good luck to all of you. May you bring the boom first into the bin and win the whole thing. All right, Jets tonight. One more game before the break. Looking to go 8-0. WST night. Super Bowl on Sunday. Chiefs looking for a three-peat. Let's get this weekend started with a marble race on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Drop them, Remo. I do like these large starts, especially with such a massive group. And again, this is totally chocolate chip cookie themed. Double chunk chocolate chunk cookie, I should say.
Any props on AJ and Big Justice being at the Super Bowl? I didn't see any.
Well, the Rizzler was at the game that I was at. But Jen Cool, Pat Rathwell, Val L, all out. We're seeing a few. Logan Meyer, Tedward Bear, Running Man propped out. Boring Sean Monahan, and Connor's little bro Luka Rabchak right now in second place. Ahead of Poopy Pants, Derek Schmidt, Kabilis, Big Daddy Brent, Kirk Fraser in the top 10 right now. But it's Boring Sean Monahan. Whoa, someone just got thrown up way ahead. Derminator. The Derminator has had the great fortune of being thrown way up. He's in first place right now. Here comes Boring Sean Monahan and Luca and the rest of the gang. But Derminator, after that great boost, has really slowed down. Here comes Boring Sean Monahan, who has taken over Derminator. Terminator had a great break, but just did not make the most of it. So it's Boring Sean Monahan in first, Terminator, and young Luka Rabchak trying to push the pace here. Boring Sean Monahan first down the funnel. 2-horse race right now. Clausen with a great transition. Kabilis getting into the mix as well. All right, we are... Okay, now this is going to be a great finish. There is a lot going on. Terminator back into first place. Just ahead of Boring Sean Monahan. Clausen's coming. Rick Benson. And Benny Jet Fan just got popped. Terminator. Boring Sean Monahan. Clausen right now at the front of the line. Who will be the first through? Going down into another funnel. Oh, wow. We've got another ball. There's still lots of track left.
Oh, no. This is it here. After this ball into the hole.
Whoever gets out first
is going to take it, yeah.
Will get popped in. Will it be Terminator? Will it be? There's plenty of in. Oh, it looks like, could it be Chris? No. Could it be Kabilis? Chris Ireland is there. Who's coming out first? Anyone's race right now. It looks like Chris Ireland. Oh, no! Kabilis!
Oh my God.
Kabilis, Chris Ireland hit some sort of a bomb that hit him back. And Jeff Kabilis with the victory. Amazing finish. Great track today, Reem. Great track. I like the bakery. This will be one that we'll definitely use again. Kabilis cannot believe it. Jesus Lord, LOL. That's right. You got it done. Yes, WST does have 1080p now.
Who said that? People are noticing. Yeah, Manny,
Someone
what's
did
up?
Notice. Who was it? Who is it that noticed that? Manny Fran. Way to go, Manny. Kabilis, first place. Unyung Gooks was second. Gregory Liverpool, the GFL, third place today. Nicely done, Greg. Boring Sean Monahan had a great run, finished fourth. Doug McFadzine, fifth. Klassen in sixth. Paul Carr, seventh. Paul's had a number of good runs, kind of top 10. Drew Music, Yakman, and how about T. Will popping a top 10 finish today? But there it is. Jeff Kabilis, our pal, longtime WST supporter. Kabilis, is this your first ever win?
He wrote finally in chat. I believe it is his first win.
And he's probably been in.
He's probably been in every one.
More than ever before. Yeah, people are noticing that the marble race is much clearer.
Is it?
And yes, it was a great track.
Yeah, we're in 1080p now. Watch out.
We will see. All right, let's go down the list. Everyone wondering where they finished. T. Will in 10th. There's Bardo. Bardo 11th. Nicely done. Chris Ireland. Oh, it was so close. It didn't work out. There's Duck Dad. Shout out to our ESTers jumping in today. David McLean, Scoops. There's Amanda Penner. David Asplund. Retro. Tony Pop. Kenny's water bottle in there. There's Dia. Cam Thang. Poopy Pants. All caps Kyle I see there. Redwood. There's Les Thompson. Les, we'll see you at the game tonight. AJ, Rob Pepper. What we got here? There's Royal Sports. Jeez. Not seen myself. There's Phyllis. Velveeta. Corey May. Mike Lay. Accountant to the stars. Still in the top half. Hustler. There I am. What am I? 163?
Yeah, it's a big roster today.
Yeah, tons of people in here today. There's Elliot. What's up, Elliot? Cowboy. Jack Teens, John Pauls. There's Hockey Mom. There's our top 10. Derek Schmidt, Wilf's World, Bart Oman. And then here's everybody that got bounced. Mike Wynn. Windog, we'll see up in 316 tonight. There's Royal, Wicked John. Krugs. Rick Benson. We saw Rick get dropped over the top rope. And again, you can always go back and check it afterwards, but we just like to do the run. Is that the bottom, Reem?
Sorry, I'm just responding to some chats. Not quite. Eric Comrie didn't finish, I saw. I threw in Kevin Sawyer as well, if you missed his appearance
Sawyer
in the
was
week.
Great.
Getting a lot of views on YouTube. I don't know. The algorithm, I did a good thumbnail, I think. I just wrote Jets on fire in all capitals. And like that's what you have to do. Like write vague stuff in your thumbnail and title.
The answer to that is yes.
So
and
yeah.
Let's hope it it clears out. Mary Jane, I got bounced. Sorry about that, MJ. Yeah, Gregory got the bronze medal today. Very, very nice.
Oh.
But Kabilis, the guy, he finally got his moment. He finally got a moment. Mary Jane, great show, gentlemen. Go Jets go. Thank you to sponsors and guests. You are so sweet, Mary Jane. Thank you very much. T-Kona Paulie's the man. Great super chats. Appreciate you, dude. And listen, you want to make some money for super chats to live the life of the rich and famous? Bet on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs on Sunday. It's not taken us wrong so far, although, I mean, again, basically a pick 'em. Great matchup. But you know who I will be riding with? And I'll probably be wearing a Chiefs hat tonight, just trying to keep the mojo from the Jets right in to Super Bowl Sunday. Again, if you want to get in early tonight, you can get in starting at 5:30 upstairs in the North End area, kind of above the overhang of the Eaton statue. Bar will be open there early as well if you want to get after it early. Main doors at 6, and then intermissions will be outside section 316 in the hangar bar. Hope to see you all there, and we've got to enjoy this game tonight in K&R and IC afterwards, Reem, because we got 2 weeks without Jets to talk about. But I'll tell you what, I am very much looking forward to wrapping the NFL season and then getting ready. Normally Monday is a very, very depressing day, with it being the last day of football or the first day after football. But we're going to get ready to see Josh Morrissey, Kyle Connor Hellebuck compete in the Four Nations. And finally, for the first time in like 10 years, legitimate best on best NHL competition. Canada's going to start it off on Wednesday, I believe, against the Swedes. And then we've got Canada, USA, and Montreal on the weekend. And then I'll be in Boston, and we'll be doing the show from Beantown on Tuesday after Family Day. Family Day, of course, is going to be Canada, Finland. And then hopefully Canada's in that final game, and we'll have a bunch of days to talk about it before the final on Thursday. Myself, Dustin Nielsen, will do Lock Shop, and we'll do WST all week from Boston. That is going to do it for us, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Great show today. Remo, what any parting thoughts?
Yeah, let me just read out these super chats. T. Conapoli had one yesterday I didn't read. He wrote WPG FIFO. I think that means fit in or F off in response to the player poll.
That's a bomber acronym.
Yeah, T. Conapoli. A lot of love for Eric Comrie in the chat today. T. Conapoli says, Coms, cheers, fellow Goalie Union member. Keep up the great work and attitude. Go Jets. And Jennifer B. had a couple super chats. Make Stanley Canadian again. Hashtag Go Jets Go. They said the Bombers would never win too. Underestimate us. Daria. And wants the Jets to get Braden Shen. And predicting 81 for the Conn Smythe. Interesting.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll take that.
I'll
take that.
So shout out to Jennifer B., who was not happy with the athletic player poll.
Many people are, but you know what? As we said, their loss and the fact that they won't be on the Jets, they're going to have to deal with the Jets come the playoffs. So 26 games after the break, one more tonight. Let's hope the boys can make it 8 in a row heading into the Four Nations break.
Okay, we're about to go. T. Conapoli wants to bet you $50. He wants to put 50 on Philly.
Done deal. Here's our virtual handshake, T. Conapoli.
Okay.
Put it this way. I'm not planning on having to pay you, but if I do, I'm not even sure if you're online where I can actually email it to you. We'll do a setup. One red one, $50 on the game. Pick them. I got the Chiefs. You got the Eagles. Good luck betting against Patrick Mahomes in the big game. All right, that's going to do it for us. Looking forward to seeing you all at the game tonight. And if not, have a wonderful weekend. Go Chiefs. And we'll see you Monday right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk to wrap the Super Bowl, the first 2/3 of the season, and get ready for the Four Nations in Montreal. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Thanks for being with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thank you to all of our sponsors and all of you for making us a part of your day. Catch you Monday.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.